Chapter 154. Not good. Inside the vortex. Everyone felt their magic power gradually fading, and their connection with the great desolate land began to weaken. Their perception of the great Tao was not as clear as before. The fading of magic power was nothing to the six of them. After all, Daluo Jinxian did not rely too much on magic power. However, the weakening of their connection with the great desolate land caused the six of them to panic a little. The reason why Daluo Jinxian was immortal was because of the great desolate land. They had combined their great Tao with the great Tao of the great desolate land, so they could coexist with the great Tao of the great desolate land. If their connection with the great desolate land was severed, their great Tao would fall into eternal silence, and their immortal characteristics would disappear. At that time, they would really die. How could they not panic? Daluo Jinxian, after all, had only transcended the long river of destiny, not the great desolate land. Outside of the great desolate land, how could they mobilize the power of the great Tao of the great Tao? The six of them were anxious and did not bother to find trouble with the other party. They all used their strongest divine abilities in an attempt to break the vortex and escape. At this time, the most anxious of the six was undoubtedly Fengzichin. He could have the power to compete with Daluo Jinxian, all because of the human race's destiny. Because of this, as his connection with the great desolate land weakened, his connection with the human race's destiny also began to fade. If this continued, it would not be long before he fell from Daluo Jinxian's realm. At that time, no one would need to do anything, as this terrifying vortex could obliterate him. Hung long. For a time, the aura of the great Tao filled the air, and various brilliance flashed. Several supreme divine abilities that only existed in legends were shot out from the six people's hands one after another, bombarding the great vortex. But they did not cause the slightest ripple. Everyone, how about we join forces? Unable to leave this place for a long time, coupled with the continued weakening of their connection with the great desolate land, Tian proposed to everyone, if one person could not do it, the six of them might work together. Good. Yes. Knowing that this was their only chance, Fengzichin and the others immediately agreed. Seeing that they couldn't break the vortex by themselves, for the sake of their lives, the six of them temporarily put aside their grudges and decided to work together to break the vortex. Tian narrowed his eyes and abruptly spat out a mouthful of Senior Magus blood towards the heaven-punishing axe. After absorbing the great shaman's blood essence, the heaven-punishing axe automatically floated in the air and emitted a dazzling light. It was the light of opening the sky. Chaos runes appeared on its body, and they intertwined crazily. Gradually, a blurry shadow of a giant axe appeared beside the heaven punishment axe, exuding an aura that could split the heavens and earth. Heaven splitting divine axe. Tian used his own bloodline as a guide to borrow a trace of the heaven splitting divine axe's power from the heaven splitting axe fragment inside the heaven punishing axe. Slash! Raising the heaven punishing axe, Tian roared and used his strongest power to chop forward. Suddenly, the dazzling axe light and the shadow of the heaven-splitting divine axe shot out. Go. Between life and death, Emo Luo didn't dare to hold back. With a flip of his left hand, he took out a long black arrow and placed it on the god-slaying bow. He knocked the arrow and shot it in the direction of Tian's attack. The arrow was a post-celestial artifact. However, unlike other acquired ultimate treasures, it was a consumable item that could only be used once. In the ancient times, the three races fought incessantly, causing the primitive world to be in a mess. The world was filled with evil energy, resentment energy, and tribulation energy. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Emo Luo spent millions of years painstakingly collecting the evil energy and tribulation energy in the world. To refine 9 acquired ultimate treasure arrows. Since the ancient times, Emo Luo had gone through countless battles. Only a few of these 9 arrows were left. Now, Emo Luo was pained to take out this arrow. This was his strongest trump card. He didn't even bear to use it when he was fighting Xing Tian. If this matter didn't concern his own life and death, he definitely wouldn't use this arrow. Roar! 2 green and yellow rays of light rose from Quafu's body and gradually formed 2 powerful Dao shadows in the air. One of the figures was green like bamboo. It had the body of a bird and the face of a human. It was the ancestor of Eastern wood, Gomang. The other figure had the body of a human and the tail of a snake. It had 7 hands behind its back and 2 hands in front of its chest. It was the central ancestor of Earth, Hutu. Quafu used his bloodline to create the Hutu Taoism form and Gomang's Taoism form. With the support of the 2 ancestral shamans, a green and yellow divine light blasted toward the place where Xing Tian was attacking. Mi Tian's complexion changed greatly as he grit his teeth, seemingly making up his mind. Pointing his finger at the heaven-enveloping mirror, he summoned a number of illusory figures from it and rushed towards the direction of the bombardment. These illusory figures were transformed from the creatures that Mi Tian had killed since he started his cultivation. After these creatures were killed by Mi Tian, their true spirits shattered and returned to the world, giving birth to new innate spirits. Their corpses and origins were refined by Mi Tian and integrated into the all-sky mirror. They turned into special spiritual bodies and fought for him. These creatures had varying cultivation levels. Most of them were in the Tai Jinxian realm, and a small number of them were in the golden immortal realm. There were even 2 golden immortal realm fierce beasts hidden among them. This was also Mi Tian's trump card. When he fought with Quafu, he was always at a disadvantage and did not use this move. Now he could no longer hide it. Pagoda, come out! World Devastator Taoist's face was ferocious as he roared. Accompanied by a monstrous death chi and a dense fiendish chi, an 18-story pagoda slowly rose from his head. The pagoda was surrounded by a dense death chi, as if it was the home of death and the resting place of all living creatures. It made people feel like they were sinking into oblivion at a glance. In each story of the pagoda, there were countless souls floating and sleeping. Their faces were either serene or pained, and so on. This scene inevitably reminded Feng Zichen of the 18 levels of hell in the legends of later generations. Moreover, this pagoda was only an acquired treasure, but it gave Feng Zichen an extremely dangerous feeling. It was even more dangerous than the 12th grade Black Lotus of Destruction. The Black Lotus of Destruction was a top-grade innate spirit treasure. This pagoda was an acquired treasure, but it was even stronger than the Black Lotus of Destruction. This was unbelievable. This also meant that this treasure was not inferior to the Chaos Bead and Hongming Daozhong in his hands. Feng Zichen had only heard of one such treasure. It was the legendary Heaven Overturning Seal that the primeval Lord of Heaven had refined from a section of Mount Buzhou. Feng Zichen did not know that this pagoda was refined by the demon ancestor Rahu by gathering endless death chi and the souls of hundreds of millions of living creatures. He intended to use this treasure to take the authority of death into his own hands and use it as a backup plan for him to become a saint. Chapter 155. Demon Ancestor Rahu had a good idea. Once he refined the pagoda, even if he failed to attain Tao through the great tribulation of heaven and earth, he could still use this treasure to control the power of death and attain Tao and become a sage. However, he did not expect that before he could refine the pagoda, he would be defeated by Tao ancestor Hongjun. He had no choice but to escape the primordial world and hide in a dark corner, silently watching the primordial world and waiting for an opportunity to make a comeback. Now, the strength of the liches and demons gave demon ancestor Rahu hope of making a comeback. Therefore, he handed the pagoda to the World Devastator Taoist and the others, and asked them to go to the primordial world to sow discord between the liches and demons. Of course, he had another goal, which was to let the World Devastator Taoist and the others kill some experts while they sowed discord between the liches and demons, so that they could continue refining the pagoda. When the 6 of them were fighting, the world devastator Taoist had relied on the pagoda to seal the surrounding space-time so that outsiders could not sense the situation inside. Naturally, no one would come to help. Kill. As soon as he said that, the scene of the death of tens of thousands of creatures appeared on the pagoda. The scene of the heavens falling and the scene of the great Tao's destruction appeared. All kinds of strange phenomena appeared one after another, and it was terrifying. With a swoosh, those terrifying phenomena quietly shattered and condensed into a ray of death. It carried the aura of the great Tao of Nirvana and shot toward the direction where everyone was attacking. Tisk tisk. Indeed, none of these Dalio Jinxian are easy to deal with. Each of them hides deeper than the other. Seeing these Dalio Jinxian take out their trump cards one by one, Feng Zichen sighed with emotion. Not long ago, these Dalio Jinxian were all extremely ferocious, as if they had been injected with chicken blood. Every move they made was to kill the other party, and they looked like they were going all out. But now it seemed that they were all holding back and hiding very deeply. Clearly, they were deliberately hiding their strength and waiting for the critical moment to give a ruthless blow. What a heart! Moreover, Feng Zichen suspected that the trump cards they were showing now might not be their final trump cards. Perhaps they were still hiding their strength. However, regardless of whether they were still hiding their strength, Feng Zichen could not hide anymore. Once the connection with the untainted world was severed, they might not die, but he might not. Even though he had barely survived with the help of the Chaos Bead and the Hongming Daozhong, it would be difficult for him to return to the primordial world. Taking a deep breath, Feng Zichen opened his mouth and swallowed the Chaos Bead. In an instant, boundless chaos chi gushed out from the chaos bead and turned into boundless dermic powers that poured into his body, causing his power to rise. Go! With a loud roar, Feng Zichen activated all the mana in his body. The 5 chi in his chest surged and rose from his body, forming the 5 Emperor's great palm print. Suddenly it blasted forward. This time, the 5 Emperor's great palm print was different from before. It was filled with the aura of the Great Way, which was different from the power of the untainted world. It belonged to the power of the Great Way of the 5 elements. What appeared on its body was no longer the phantoms of the 5 elements' sacred beasts, but the phantoms of 5 terrifying demonic gods. Those were the demonic gods of the 5 elements, which represented the highest achievement of the Great Way of the 5 elements. Feng Zichen replaced the 5 elements' sacred beasts with the demonic gods of the 5 elements and evolved a new 5 elements Great Emperor. He reconstructed the 5 Emperor's great palm print and drew in the power of the Great Way of the Unseen, causing it to be sublimated and its power to multiply. Rumbling, under the 5 Emperor's great palm print, the power of the 5 elements rotated endlessly. It was like a millstone of destruction, as if it was going to obliterate the past, the future, the present, and everything that existed. Each of the 6 great magical powers had the power to destroy a part of the world. Moreover, the 6 of them joined forces and attacked together. How powerful would their power be? Even a Daluo Jinxian would die and fall into a deep sleep after being hit by such a sudden attack. Under the bombardment of the 6 great magical powers, the huge whirlpool that the 6 of them had failed to shake at all began to tremble violently. Then the huge whirlpool collapsed with the direction of the 6 great magical powers as the origin. It turned into a state of nothingness and spat out all the power that it had previously devoured. Feng Zichen and the others were spat out by the huge whirlpool along with the power. However, the power of the huge whirlpool when it collapsed was too terrifying. Before Feng Zichen and the others could find the path to the untainted world, the river of time and space underwent a shocking change under the impact of the terrifying power. Rumble! Huge waves surged into the sky, setting off boundless waves on the river of time and space, causing the secrets hidden in the depths of time and space to gradually surface. In the depths of the river of time and space, an unknown period of time, a period of history that had been forgotten for an unknown period of time, was swept up by the huge waves in the huge storm that stirred the river of time and space, surging up from the bottom of the river and appearing in front of everyone. At the same time, a vast divine might approached and pressed down on everyone. It cast a shadow over everyone's hearts and made them feel powerless. That was the power of Mount Bujo. With such a huge change in the river of time and space, Mount Bujo naturally reacted immediately. Its supreme divine power erupted, wanting to suppress all the existences that were disturbing the river of time and space. That is, seeing the unknown period of time, although everyone was puzzled, they couldn't care less now. They rushed into that period of time as if they were grasping at straws. No matter how dangerous it was, it couldn't be more dangerous than being suppressed by Mount Bujo. One had to know that if they were suppressed by Mount Bujo, they would have no future. If they fled, there was still a chance of survival. If they didn't leave, there was no way out. It was obvious what to choose. Oh, what's wrong with the river of time and space? What happened? Who's shaking the river of time and space? How could such a commotion be hidden any longer? Instantly, many eminences woke up from their seclusion and looked towards the river of time and space. However, after Feng Zichen and the others left, Mount Bujo's power pressed down and suppressed the river of time and space again, causing all traces to be erased. The eminences naturally couldn't discover anything. Where is this? Hiding in the chaos bead, Feng Zichen passed through a space-time barrier and arrived in a mysterious world. Here, the Khanate energy was extremely rich, and the laws of order could be seen clearly. However, it was definitely not a cultivation holy land. This was because there were cracks everywhere in the void. From time to time, a storm formed by chaotic aura would blow past, strangling everything in its path. It was terrifying. The terrain of this place was also extremely strange. It emitted an ancient aura. Even the mountains and rivers were ancient. It was a barbaric and simple scene. The aura here is so ancient. It's even older than the ancient era. After quietly sensing for a while, Feng Zichen discovered that this place was even older than the ancient era in his impression. This was an era even further back. Chapter 156. Could this be? Is this the legendary primordial age? Feng Zichen said in bewilderment as he looked at the ancient world in front of him. Only the immemorial era was older than the antiquity era. Legend had it that before the ancient era, before the three races were born and the great desolate Aeon was just established, there was an ancient period of time. During that period of time, because the world had just been created, it was not very stable. Quite a bit of primal chaos chi remained, drifting around the world. Spatial storms would erupt from time to time, attacking all living beings in the primordial world, causing the cultivation environment to be abnormally bad. Even the heavenly Tao was ignorant and could not take care of the entire primordial world. How could it be so perfect and take care of all aspects? The innate gods that were born at that time were all bathed in the Tao rhythm of the great Taos. They were extraordinarily strong, and their innate origin energy was extremely dense, far surpassing the innate gods of the later generations. They were the oldest group of Khanate god fiends in the world. All of them had extraordinary encounters. Hongjun, ancestral dragon, Qilin ancestor. They were born in this era. However, during that period of time, it was no longer the Khanate god fiends that roamed the untainted land, but the Khanate ferocious beasts transformed from the remains of the chaos fiend gods. These Khanate ferocious beasts were different from the ferocious beasts of the later generations that had no intelligence. They were born from the will of the chaos demonic god. Their Taoist bodies were naturally formed, and they were well connected. They had also inherited part of the chaos demonic god's legacy. In the harsh environment, they were like fish in water. They saw the innate gods as their prey and hunted them crazily, further reducing their living space. For this reason, for a very long time, the innate fiend gods had been hiding in the untainted land to avoid the persecution of the innate ferocious beasts. Later on, these connate god fiends gradually matured. Under the leadership of the ancestral dragon and the others, they rebelled and fought against the connate ferocious beasts for a long time. It was because of this war that the ancestral Gragon and the others had accumulated enough capital to lay a firm foundation for ruling the untainted land in the future. Connate god fiends were the orthodox lineage of the primordial world and were blessed by the world. Therefore, as time passed, the connate beasts that had the upper hand gradually lost ground to the connate gods. At the end of the primordial era, the innate gods and demons fought a great battle against the innate beasts. With the secret help of the heavens and earth, the Sciention ferocious beast was defeated. Their intense unwillingness caused the connate ferocious beasts to completely lose their rationality and self-destruct, taking the many connate god fiends with them. With the fall of the connate god fiends and connate ferocious beasts, their origins returned to the world, causing the world to evolve further. The heavenly Tao was further perfected, and the primordial world was basically stabilized. As for the innate gods that survived, they also received the fruits of their labor, blessed by the heaven and earth's fate. Their strength grew by leaps and bounds in the following years, and the three races also rose to power. The primordial world entered the primordial age. As for the old matters of the primordial age, they were buried in the passage of time after all, as they were related to the face of the innate gods. Innate god fiends were born great and lofty, the rulers of heaven and earth. How could they have been treated as prey by innate ferocious beasts? How could they have such a tragic past? If someone found out, it would be terrible. Therefore, everything related to the primordial era was sunk into the depths of the river of space-time by the connate god fiends. As a result, only some ancient legends were passed down in later generations. Now, because of an accident, Feng Zichen and the others stirred up the river of space-time and shook the primordial battlefield of the past out of the depths of the river of space-time, causing the secrets of the primordial era to reappear in the world. Is this really the primordial battlefield? With this thought in mind, Feng Zichen calmed his mind and carefully sensed the changes in his body. When he found that his connection with the destiny of the human race was still there, he heaved a sigh of relief. Whether this is the primordial battlefield or not, there is no doubt that this place belongs to the primordial world. It was good that he was still in the primordial world. This way, he could maintain the combat strength of Daluo Jingxian and have more ability to protect himself when he encountered danger. Whoosh! A gust of black wind blew past Feng Zichen and destroyed the void for thousands of miles, making his eyelids twitch. Chaotic, baleful qi. There's actually chaotic, baleful qi here. Feng Zichen was a little shocked. The black wind was chaotic, baleful qi. His figure moved and he rushed forward. Even if this place was not the primordial battlefield, it should be related to the chaos demon celestial. Not long after, Feng Zichen found something unusual. In front of him were broken mountains, dried-up rivers, and a devastated land. In the void, there was a sorrowful feeling, and there was an extremely low whimper. From time to time, there was a rain of blood, which was incomparably mournful. Affected by this, Feng Zichen couldn't help but feel depressed. A great overarching golden immortal has fallen here. Moreover, judging from the commotion, I'm afraid it's not just one. At least dozens of great overarching golden immortals have fallen together to cause such a commotion. There might even be more. Stopping, Feng Zichen silently calculated in his heart for a while and came to a shocking conclusion. It seems that it's better to be careful. After muttering to himself, the Hongmeng Daozhong flew out of Feng Zichen's body and hovered above his head. Strands of Hongmeng qi hung down to protect him. So many Daluo Jingxian had died here, and who knew what kind of monsters would be born here? It was never wrong to be careful. The further he went, the more dangerous it was. In the beginning, what Feng Zichin encountered were only strands of chaotic, baleful qi, which couldn't cause him any harm. After walking for a while, he saw chaotic, baleful qi raging and swallowing everything. It was connected to the great chaos outside the realm, which scared him so much that he carefully avoided it. In the end, various colors of light intertwined in the void. There were Tao and truth intertwined, and fragments of laws appeared, emitting a terrifying aura. That was the aftermath of the battle in the past. Because the power was too strong, even after countless years, it had not been erased. Instead, it became more and more intense and combined with the laws of heaven and earth, turning into a strange realm. After carefully bypassing these strange areas, Feng Zichin came to a place filled with Taoist rhymes. It was not exactly a place filled with Taoist rhymes. In the depths of the Taoist rhymes, there was a deep, chaotic, baleful qi that was entangled with the Taoist rhymes. Looking at the situation, it should be two Daluo Jingxian that died here. Feng Zichin held his chin and looked for a while before coming to a conclusion. One exuded the aura of heaven and earth, while the other exuded the aura of a chaos demon god. These two were born with irreconcilable contradictions. Seeing that they were still entangled with each other after death, there must be a huge blood feud. Tree of World, I'll leave this to you. After looking for a while, Feng Zichin took out the chaos bead and said to the Tree of World, Chapter 157. Most of the connate origins of the two Daluo Jingxian had already returned to heaven and earth. Only some connate origins that were deeply entangled with the chaotic evil qi were left behind. The chaotic evil qi was the most ferocious thing in heaven and earth. These connate origins that were left behind had already become the most poisonous thing in the world. Even if ordinary people obtained them, they would not be able to use them. But the Tree of World was different. As a chaos spiritual root, it could absorb all the energy derived from the chaos as nourishment for its own growth. Even the chaotic evil qi was no exception. Sensing the power of the connate origins, the Tree of World could not wait to extend a root and take root in the center of the origins, absorbing it crazily. The untainted land is still too dangerous. Even the Daluo Jingxian cannot protect himself. Although he is said to be immortal and indestructible, there are too many ways to prevent him from returning. Through the connate origin, Feng Zichin's eyes saw through the layers of illusions and came to a dead place. There, two dazzling true spirits were tightly entangled and fighting fiercely without stopping. It was as if they would fight until the end of the untainted land and perish together with the world. The two true spirits were the two Daluo Jingxian who had died here. Their consciousness had long disappeared. The battle now was driven by the instinct to destroy the opponent. If the Daluo Jingxian wanted to return, he would have to accumulate power in his sleep. When his power reached a certain level, he would cross the boundary of life and death and return to the untainted land. However, these two true spirits had been fighting since ancient times, constantly exhausting their own strength. They hadn't accumulated a single bit of strength. So how could they return to their original form? If this continued, the two Daluo Jingxian would probably never return. I wonder if the connate divine demon's spiritual treasures are still here? Coming back to his senses, Feng Zichin looked at the connate origins that were decreasing. He could not help but have other thoughts. As the oldest connate divine demons, they must have connate spiritual treasures of high levels. Now that they might never return, it would be a pity to leave these connate spiritual treasures here. It would be better to bring them back to the human race and add some strength to the human race. At the thought of this, Feng Zichin released his divine perception and scanned the surroundings to see if there were any traces of innate spiritual treasures nearby. A moment later, he retracted his divine sense, having found nothing. However, he was not disappointed. Spiritual treasures were items that could be carried around with the owner. Even if the owner died, they would remain by the owner's side. He released his divine perception to search the vicinity, just in case he missed something. Several years passed in the blink of an eye. The Khanate origin here had all been absorbed by the Tree of World. Perhaps Feng Zichen's previous warning had taken effect. Before the world tree returned to the chaos bead, it actually spat out a wisp of the world's origin at him. It was no longer as stingy as before. From the looks of it, the warning from back then was still effective. Feng Zichen shook his head and laughed. Ignoring the Tree of World, Feng Zichen stepped forward. In front of him was the place where the Khanate origin had been. After the Khanate origin had been absorbed by the Tree of World, 2 hazy balls of light appeared. They were surrounded by Khanate aura. There was no doubt that they were Khanate spiritual treasures. Feng Zichen's target was them. As he approached, he waved his sleeves and broke the 2 balls of light, revealing the Khanate spiritual treasures inside. However, what he saw in front of him was completely different from what he had imagined. How could this be? Looking at the fragments of the Khanate spiritual treasures in front of him, Feng Zichen was speechless. There were indeed Khanate spiritual treasures in the balls of light. However, they had been broken so badly that even their original appearance could not be seen. Of the 2 Khanate spiritual treasures, one of them had been broken into 9 pieces. They looked like white jade and were extremely dazzling. The other was even more miserable. There was only a little Khanate inextinguishable divine light left. Its original body had completely disappeared. Alas, it's better than nothing. Let's see if I can repair them first. With a sigh, Feng Zichen took the 9 pieces of white jade and put them together in his hands. The original appearance of the Khanate spiritual treasure could no longer be seen. However, from the Khanate Taoist rhyme that it emitted, it seemed to be able to illuminate everything. It should be related to the Tao of Light. A few days later, Feng Zichen put away the 9 pieces of white jade helplessly. He had given up on the idea of repairing it. According to his calculations, the Khanate spiritual treasure should have been broken into 12 pieces. However, there were only 9 pieces here. It was obvious that it had been lost in the battle. Moreover, the Khanate inextinguishable divine light of the Khanate spiritual treasure was also severely damaged. It was less than 1/10 of its peak. If he wanted to rely on it to repair itself, it would not be able to recover to its peak even when the Eldritch world was destroyed. If he used the 9 pieces of white jade as the foundation to refine a new Khanate spiritual treasure, it would at most be a middle-grade Khanate spiritual treasure. Before this Khanate spiritual treasure was broken, it was a supreme-grade Khanate spiritual treasure. I'll put it away first. I'll think about it later. If I really can't repair it, I'll use it to refine a new Khanate spiritual treasure. In the end, he could not resist the temptation of a supreme-grade Khanate spiritual treasure. Feng Zichen decided to wait and see if he could find the remaining 3 pieces. Even if he could not repair it, he could find the remaining 3 pieces and refine a new Dharma treasure. It would also increase its power significantly. With another wave of his hand, Feng Zichen took another Khanate spiritual treasure. It was a small section of the Khanate inextinguishable divine light. The Dharma of darkness vaguely appeared within it. It emitted an aura that was completely opposite to the other Khanate spiritual treasure. No wonder the 2 of them fought so fiercely. They were born to be enemies. At this moment, Feng Zichen came to a realization. One was of light while the other was of darkness. They were on different sides. In addition, they were born to be enemies. How could they not fight to the death? This Khanate spiritual treasure saves me a lot of trouble. There's no way to repair it. I can only find materials to refine a new Khanate spiritual treasure. Feng Zichen smiled as he put away the Khanate spiritual treasure. The body of the treasure had been completely shattered. Even the connate, inextinguishable divine light was only left with a small section. There was no other way to restore it except for letting it recover by itself. However, it had been so long. Feng Zichen could not afford to wait. It was better to find suitable materials and refine a new connate spiritual treasure. TSK. This battle was really fierce. Feng Zichen sighed as he looked at the battlefield again. The two Daluo, Jinxian, perished together. Even their connate spiritual treasures were smashed to pieces. It was obvious how fierce this battle was. Feng Zichen bowed to the place and turned to rush elsewhere. He was not the only one who had come to the Archean relic. If he delayed any longer, the opportunity might be taken by someone else. Feng Zichen did not know how big the Archean relic was. However, he knew that this place was definitely not small. Even if there were few experts in the Archean era, there were at least 100 Daluo Jinxian on both sides. And this place could accommodate so many Daluo Jinxian fighting. How could it be small? Chapter 158. The Archean ruins were boundless and filled with danger. Even with Feng Zichen's cultivation, he did not dare to fly recklessly in the air. He could only carefully travel on the ground, avoid all kinds of dangerous places, and look for opportunities to explore the place. A few years later, Feng Zichen found another battlefield where the Daluo Jinxian were fighting in hundreds of thousands of miles away from here. They died together again. This is really cruel. Feng Zichen couldn't help but click his tongue after looking for a while. The situation here was similar to the previous one. Two Daluo Jinxian died together. However, the difference was that the two Daluo Jinxian cultivated the same great way, the way of nothingness. Therefore, the two Daluo Jinxian fought more fiercely than the previous two. The Dharma above their true spirits was densely packed, and they wanted to assimilate each other. It seemed that they did not intend to return until they completely destroyed each other. However, the Daluo Jinxian was immortal, and their true spirits existed forever. It was impossible to destroy their true spirits. In other words, the two Daluo Jinxian would never return. Of course, whether they could return or not had nothing to do with Feng Zichen. The most important thing now was to cultivate the Tree of World. The sages had all appeared, and the great witch-demon war was not far away. If the Tree of World could not support the Eldritch world by then, he would be in big trouble. This place is really a treasure for the Tree of World. Feng Zichen exclaimed as he took out the Tree of World and let it absorb the remaining connate origin here. With his current cultivation, he could not touch the connate origin that was polluted by the chaotic evil chi, let alone refine it. If he really became the Daluo Jinxian, he might try to refine it, but now he could only give it to the Tree of World. A few years later, the connate origin here was completely absorbed by the Tree of World. Two balls of light filled with connate Taoist rhymes appeared. The Tree of World shook its roots and spat out the origin of the world at Feng Zichen, which shrank back into the chaos bead. Alas, there are fragments again. Stepping forward, Feng Zichen saw the connate numinous treasure fragments within. Although he had expected it, he could not help but feel disappointed when he actually saw it. Fortunately, these two connate spiritual treasures are compatible. Perhaps I can fuse them into a spiritual treasure. When I have time in the future, I will study it carefully. After putting away the two connate spiritual treasures, Feng Zichen rushed to the next location. In the blink of an eye, thousands of years had passed. In these 1,000 years, Feng Zichen continued to move forward in a straight line. Along the way, he found 10 more places where the Daluo Jinxian had fallen. Unfortunately, Feng Zichen did not find a complete connate numinous treasure in these 10 battlefields, but he still obtained a huge pile of numinous treasure fragments. The Tree of World, on the other hand, had undergone a shocking change after absorbing so much connate origin. The origin energy on his body was vast and mighty, and the aura of the great Tao was incomparably dense. It was extremely shocking. Compared to the Daluo Jinxian, it was much stronger. According to Feng Zichen's estimation, if the Tree of World could give birth to complete spiritual intelligence, it would have a cultivation of the sage-to-be realm as soon as it transformed. Unfortunately, the origin of the world was a chaos spiritual root, and its origin was not inferior to the chaos demon god. In the untainted land, it was impossible for it to give birth to spiritual intelligence. There was probably no need to wait for it to transform. The moment it was born with intelligence, it would probably be greeted with the endless attacks of the heavenly Tao. The Tree of World, what a pity! Shaking his head, Feng Zichen no longer paid attention to the Tree of World, but focused on the 3,000 sectors. The 3,000 sectors, which were interdependent with the Tree of World, naturally benefited a lot from its great improvement. In these worlds, the heaven and earth had stabilized, and the chaotic qi wandering in the void was gradually digested by the heaven and earth. The chaos of the order Dharma also began to calm down, and the qi of heaven and earth showed signs of dispersing. Everything was developing in a good direction. Of course, the birth of a world could not be achieved overnight. No matter how strong the origin was, it would take countless years to evolve. Now, these worlds only lacked the accumulation of time. Let's wait a little longer. When these sectors give birth to their origin consciousness, the way of heaven will not stop me from entering. After some calculations, Feng Zichen calculated the time to step into the sector. After the sector gave birth to its origin consciousness, it had the power to protect itself, and the way of heaven would withdraw its attention. As long as the sector was not destroyed, the way of heaven would not pay attention to it. At this time, it was the time for Feng Zichen to enter the sector. This time, the Tree of World's origin has surpassed most Daluo Jinxians, and it can provide me with a lot of help. With this thought, Feng Zichen's heart moved, and he borrowed part of the Tree of World's power to support himself. In an instant, Feng Zichen's aura soared into the sky. Even under the suppression of the rules of heaven, it still stirred up the wind and clouds within thousands of miles. It was extremely powerful. What a strong power! Feeling the strong power in his body, Feng Zichen was overjoyed. With this power, even if he did not have the destiny of the human race, he could still contend against a golden immortal. If he added the power of the destiny of the human race, if he added the fate of the human tribe, he would not be as restrained as before when facing the world devastator Taoist and the others. He could fight them without restraint. It's a pity that the Tree of World is a coward. If it could take the initiative to attack, how many Daluo Jinxian would be able to fight against it? Feng Zichen said angrily as he retracted his aura. Just by lending him a part of its power, it could give him power that was not inferior to Daluo Jinxian. One could imagine how strong the Tree of World was. However, the Tree of World was extremely timid, perhaps because it was scared out of its wits by the chaos demon god in its early years. It could borrow its power, but could not take the initiative to attack. If not, Feng Zichen could directly control the Tree of World to fight against the enemy. It would save him a lot of trouble. Why did he have to do it himself? Wouldn't it be troublesome? It's been so long. I wonder where Xing Tian, Kuo-fu, and the others are now. Thinking of Kuo-fu, Feng Zichen could not help but feel puzzled. That day, in order to avoid the suppression of Mount Buzhou, the 6 of them plunged into the primordial ruins in a panic. They were separated and landed in different places. However, it had been more than 1,000 years since the 6 of them came here. Until now, he had not found any trace of anyone. This was somewhat abnormal. I hope I'm not too unlucky to meet the world devastator Taoist and the others head-on. The separation of the 6 of them was the most disadvantageous to Feng Zichen. The 3 of them came from the same sect and definitely had a secret method to contact each other. Xing Tian and Kuo-fu would not lack the corresponding secret method. As for him, he could not contact anyone. Chapter 159. What a blunder. I didn't have time to exchange tokens with the Kwafu and the rest. Feng Zichen said in frustration as he shook his head. If he encountered the World Devastator Taoist and the other two alone, it would be difficult for him to escape under their combined forces. However, there is a lot of chaotic chi here. The World Devastator Taoist and the rest might be collecting it and won't be able to take care of me for now. Feng Zichen consoled himself after a while. As demonic Tao cultivators, the chaotic chi was no less than an ultimate treasure to them. Whether it was used to refine treasures, cultivate one's body, or cultivate one's remarkable abilities, it could greatly increase one's power. Feng Zichen did not believe that they would not be tempted. This is really my treasure ground. Suddenly, the World Devastator Taoist's arrogant laughter sounded from afar and landed clearly in Feng Zichen's ears. What? Just as Feng Zichen was wondering if he would encounter the World Devastator Taoist and the rest, he heard the laughter. His expression changed as he cursed himself for being a jinx. With a flash, he entered the chaos bead and hid in the depths of the void. Several years passed in this manner. Ever since the World Devastator Taoist laughed, there had been no movement. Feng Zichen, who was hiding in the dark, could not help but secretly wonder if he had left. After waiting for several more years, there was still no movement from the World Devastator Taoist. Feng Zichen was getting impatient. He steered the chaos bead and stealthily rushed toward the source of the laughter. Grade 12 World Devastation Black Lotus. Why did the World Devastator Taoist summon it out of nowhere? From afar, Feng Zichen saw a black lotus blooming in the wind. It emitted a black stream of light and a destructive aura. Wait, that is a connate spirit root? Damn it, that World Devastator Taoist has committed heinous sins. Why does he still have such great providence? Curious about the World Devastator Taoist's actions, Feng Zichen walked forward for a short distance and saw a connate spirit root struggling violently beside him. It was a spirit root that was shaped like a grapevine. Its body was covered with roots. Those were the roots of the 12th grade Black Lotus of Destruction. They were constantly extracting its innate source, which was also the reason why it was struggling so violently. Judging from the aura of the grapevine, it was undoubtedly a superior grade, connate spiritual root. How could it be a match for the 12th grade Black Lotus of Destruction? Moreover, with the help of the World Devastator Taoist, it did not even have a chance to resist. Before Feng Zichen came, the Black Lotus of Destruction had devoured the innate origin of this spiritual root for several years. Now it was at the end of its life. Under the absorption of the Black Lotus of Destruction, the innate heaven grapevine's spiritual light was dimming. Its life force was also weakening, and it was on the verge of death. The World Devastator Taoist's luck is really boundless. Looking at the World Devastator Taoist in the distance, Feng Zichen felt extremely conflicted. The location of the connate spirit root was on the path he had to pass. He was just about to reach it when the World Devastator Taoist suddenly appeared and scared him away, causing him to miss the treasure for no reason. Feng Zichen felt extremely conflicted. This doesn't make sense. I have great merit on me, and I naturally have boundless providence gathering. How could I miss the treasure and let the World Devastator Taoist take advantage of me? Moreover, the World Devastator Taoist's sins are monstrous. He has repeatedly caused chaos in the primordial world. No matter how great his providence is, it cannot withstand his consumption. It should have been exhausted long ago. Then what's the situation now? No matter how I look at it, it feels like his providence has completely suppressed mine. But how is that possible? Seeing the excitement on the World Devastator Taoist's face, Feng Zichen felt even more upset. Where are Emo Luo and Mi Tian? Extremely depressed, Feng Zichen decided to leave. After all, out of sight, out of mind. Perhaps he would feel better if he did not see the World Devastator Taoist's annoying face. But just as he was about to move, he realized that something was wrong. It had been so long, but Emo Luo and Mi Tian had not appeared. Could it be that they were not here at all? With that thought, Feng Zichen controlled the chaos bead and carefully probed the surroundings, trying to find the auras of Emo Luo and Mi Tian. As expected, the two of them are not here. Several months later, Feng Zichen looked around several times, but did not find the auras of Emo Luo and Mi Tian. They were not here. Then, kill him. After confirming that Emo Luo and Mi Tian were not here, Feng Zichen's eyes turned cold. He took out the Hongmeng Daozhong and used all his strength to directly smash it at the World Devastator Taoist's head. At this moment, the World Devastator Taoist was completely immersed in the pleasure of increasing his source energy. How could he have imagined that someone would launch a sneak attack at this time? Caught off guard, he was hit by Feng Zichen. Boom! With a loud explosion, the Black Lotus of Destruction was directly overturned by the Hongmeng Daozhong. Without the protection of the Black Lotus of Destruction, the tyrannical bell waves blasted the World Devastator Taoist's body one after another, sending him flying. One could see that shocking cracks had appeared on his body like porcelain. Blood gushed out like a fountain, making him look extremely miserable. Ah, it's you again. While flying, the World Devastator Taoist glanced out of the corner of his eye and saw Feng Zichen's disgusting face. He could not help but be enraged and spit out a mouthful of blood. The World Devastator Taoist could be said to be extremely aggrieved. Twice now, a total of 2 times. It was the same in the Thunderlock, and it was the same here. Every time he was at his most complacent, Feng Zichen would jump out and completely destroy his hopes of recovering his source energy. Back in the Thunderlock, the World Devastator Taoist was prepared to devour the source energy of the Thunder Lord of the Nine Heavens, so that once he transformed, he would have the strength of Daluo Jingxian. But who would have thought that the moment he was about to succeed, the World Tree would suddenly appear and snatch his source energy, causing him to fail at the last moment. And now he was about to completely devour the innate grapevine and recover his source energy. But with Feng Zichen's attack, the source energy that he had just devoured from the innate grapevine was completely shattered and returned to the world. This way, not only did he work for nothing, but he also suffered heavy injuries because of it. How could the World Devastator Taoist not be angry? How could he not be angry? Ah, I want you to die. The pagoda! Furious, the World Devastator Taoist wanted to take out the pagoda, but Feng Zichen would not give him the chance. Before the World Devastator Taoist could finish his sentence, Feng Zichen raised the Hongmeng Daozhong and smashed it at him. Dang! 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 A series of rapid bell sounds rang, causing the World Devastator Taoist to be in a daze. Naturally, he could not control the pagoda. Do you think you are worthy of killing me? Taking out the Zichen sword, Feng Zichen waved his hand and slashed out a sword ray, leaving a huge wound on the World Devastator Taoist's body. Chapter 160. In the past, Feng Zichen had used all his means, but was unable to leave a single wound on the World Devastator Taoist. Now it was different. Every move he made could cause the World Devastator Taoist's flesh to split open. Although he could not cause much damage to the World Devastator Taoist, he looked extremely miserable. After all, it was the World Devastator Taoist's true body. Sensing the World Devastator Taoist situation, the 12 World Destruction Black Lotus shone brightly and charged toward Feng Zichen. Chaos Bead, go! Seeing the Black Lotus of Destruction charging toward him, Feng Zichen sent the chaos bead out of his body like a black stream of light. It flew above the black lotus of destruction and froze it there. However, although the chaos bead was powerful, the black lotus of destruction was also extraordinary. Under the suppression of the chaos bead, black flames suddenly rose from the black lotus of destruction's body. It emitted a terrifying aura of destruction and burned time and space into nothingness. After time and space disappeared, the suppression power of the chaos bead suddenly dissipated. The black lotus of destruction took this opportunity to escape from the seal of the chaos bead and flew toward the world devastator Taoist. Get lost! After finally finding an opportunity to suppress the world devastator Taoist, Feng Zichen would not allow the black lotus of destruction to save him. He suddenly turned around and used the Hongmeng Daozhong to send the black lotus of destruction back. At the same time, the chaos bead flew over and stopped using its suppression power. Instead, it fought with the black lotus of destruction to prevent it from getting close to the world devastator Taoist. Turning back, Feng Zichen looked at the dazed world devastator Taoist and could not help but have the urge to kill him. He wanted to take this opportunity to send him to the land of eternal rest. Die. Once the urge to kill arose, it could not be stopped. Feng Zichen hardened his heart and spat out a mouthful of blood essence onto the Hongmeng Daozhong. In the next moment, the primordial chaos Dao bell grew in the wind, transforming into 100,000 feet in size. It enveloped the world devastator Taoist within and began to vibrate. Clang, 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 clang. 5 consecutive rings of the bell almost drained all of Feng Zichen's magic power. Within Hongmeng Daozhong, thousands of strands of Hongmeng Qi descended, shattering space-time and destroying all spells. They drowned the world devastator Taoist, attempting to assimilate him into Hongmeng Qi. Right at this moment, a sudden change occurred. As if sensing the danger the world devastator Taoist was in, the pagoda appeared on its own and flew to the top of his head. A black screen of light hung down to protect him, blocking the assimilation of Hongmeng's Qi. Boundless scenes of death appeared on the black screen of light. Fiend gods had fallen, worlds had been destroyed, and the grand Tao had declined. It was like the source of death, incomparably terrifying. Hongmeng's Qi blasted onto its body, producing a sizzling sound, and actually canceled each other out. Not good. Upon seeing this, Feng Zichen immediately understood that the world devastator Taoist would not be able to kill him today with the protection of this supreme treasure. World devastator Taoist, farewell for today. See you again. After picking up the Khanate spirit root on the ground and plucking a lotus seed from the black lotus of destruction, Feng Zichen cupped his fists and bade farewell to the world devastator Taoist, who was about to regain his consciousness. After that, he first retrieved the Hongmeng Daozhong, then entered the chaos bead and ran into the distance from the depths of the void. His actions could be said to be done in one go. Bastard, don't leave. Under the pagoda, the world devastator Taoist had just regained consciousness when he saw Feng Zichen's hurriedly leaving back view. He could not help but roar and chase after him. However, he was too severely injured and had no choice but to stop after a short chase. He found a random place and went into seclusion to recuperate. As for Feng Zichen, he flew in the depths of the void for several years before finding a secluded place to count his gains. Khanate purple crystal grape? After taking out the Khanate grape, Feng Zichen used his divine will to sense it for a moment and learned of its origin and effects. The Khanate purple crystal grape was a superior grade Khanate spirit root of the primordial world. Every 18,000 years, it could produce 9 bunches of purple crystal grapes, each with 81 grapes. Purple was the color of the great Tao and was extremely noble. Once a Khanate item was purple, it would be extraordinary even if its grade was not high. This was the case for the Khanate purple crystal grape. The connate purple crystal grape was born from the creation of the great Tao and had supreme effects. Eating one alone could awaken and improve one's bloodline. The more one ate, the better the effect. If one ate a bunch, one could go against the connate heavens and turn from a postnatal life form into a connate life form. From then on, one could live as long as heaven and earth and become Tai Jinxian. If one could eat 10 bunches, one could obtain the creation of the great Tao and ascend to the heavens in a single step, turning into a connate god fiend and becoming Daluo. Of course, such a shortcut was not favored by the heavenly Tao. Therefore, those who used this technique to transform into a connate god fiend had to first pass the test of the heavenly Tao before they could truly become a connate god fiend. Otherwise, everything would be for naught under the heavenly punishment. What a treasure! Everything else aside, just its ability to awaken bloodlines is enough to make it a sacred item of the god fiend Tao. Feng Zichen was overjoyed after learning about the effects of the connate purple crystal grape. One had to know that the foundation of the god fiend Tao lay in one's bloodline. After entering the divine sea realm, cultivators of the god fiend Tao would have to choose a connate bloodline to cultivate and strengthen it continuously before transforming it into a corresponding connate body. After that, they would use the connate bloodline as a foundation to transform into a connate life form. The best of them might even be able to take a step further and transform into a connate god fiend. Connate bloodlines were the foundation of the god fiend Tao, and it was not an exaggeration to call the connate purple crystal grape a sacred item that could improve one's bloodline. In fact, this spirit root could even be used as a treasure to protect the fortunes of the god fiend Tao. World Devastator Taoist truly deserves to die. At that moment, there was no way Feng Zichen would not understand with the treasure in hand. The connate purple crystal grape was fated with him and was a treasure that the heavenly Tao prepared for him. However, the World Devastator Taoist snatched it from him. How could he not be angry? World Origin, come. Taking out the World Origin, Feng Zichen injected it into the connate purple crystal grape to make up for its missing connate origin. After the World Devastator Taoist devoured so much connate origin, the connate purple crystal grape was already on the brink of death. If not for Feng Zichen's timely intervention, this spirit root would have been destroyed. At that thought, Feng Zichen felt a lingering fear. Back then, he did not know that this item would be so important to him. Whoosh! After absorbing the world origin, the connate purple crystal grape regained some vitality. A tinge of green appeared on its originally withered body as its leaves swayed with the wind with the joy of rebirth. Again, seeing that the world origin was useful, Feng Zichen could not be bothered to feel the pinch. He took out the remaining 8 world origins and injected them into the connate purple crystal grape. Fortunately, the world tree had previously devoured the 12 battlefields and provided him with 12 connate origins. Apart from the 3 he used, there were still 9 left. Otherwise, Feng Zichen would not have been able to think of a way to save the connate purple crystal grape in such a short time. Chapter 161. Even if the connate purple crystal grape was at its peak, it would take a long time to digest so much world origin energy. Moreover, it was now on the verge of death. It would probably take tens of thousands of years to digest all the world origin energy and return to its peak state. He kept the connate purple crystal grape and placed it in the chaos bead. Under the Tree of World, he planned to use the Taoist rhymes from the Tree of World to speed up its digestion of the world origin energy. After dealing with the connate purple crystal grape, Feng Zichen flipped his hand and took out a black lotus seed. This was the seed of the 12th grade black lotus of destruction. Before Feng Zichen left, he had seen a lotus seed in the black lotus of destruction and felt strange, so he had picked it. It was surrounded by destruction Taoist rhymes and countless Khanate runes. It gave off the same aura as the Black Lotus of Destruction, and there was also a trace of the Khanate purple crystal grape's aura. The Khanate purple crystal grape was a superior grade Khanate spirit root and contained a very rich Khanate origin energy. In just a few years, the Black Lotus of Destruction could not refine it completely. It could only refine a part of it, and the Khanate origin energy that could not be refined was stagnant in its body and gave birth to a lotus seed. Otherwise, the world devastator Taoist would not have allowed the Black Lotus of Destruction to produce a lotus seed. Ever since the world devastator Taoist was born, he did not allow the Black Lotus of Destruction to produce new lotus seeds to avoid exhausting its origin energy and damaging its own potential. The Khanate purple crystal grape has the ability to revert to its roots. This lotus seed was born from it and has inherited almost all the abilities of the 12th grade Black Lotus of Destruction. It is simply a low-grade version of the Black Lotus of Destruction. Feng Zichen looked at the lotus seed in his hand. After a long while, he finally came to a realization. Unfortunately, because of this, the Khanate spirit treasure that this lotus seed turned into is naturally countered by the Black Lotus of Destruction. It has no power to fight back. Who knows, it might be snatched away in one move. Shaking his head, Feng Zichen put the lotus seed aside and no longer cared about it. He would not cultivate this lotus seed until he dealt with this problem. He did not want the spirit treasure to fall into the world devastator Taoist's arms when he fought him. That would be depressing. Where is this place? After doing all this, Feng Zichen came out of his hiding place and investigated the situation. However, he just walked out for a short distance when he saw the space before him warp abruptly, and the heavens and the earth underwent a transformation as well. It pulled him into a strange space, and innate formation markings overlapped layer upon layer as they swept over. Subconsciously, Feng Zichen used the 5 Emperors' mystique to meet the attack head-on. Rumble! The 5 Monarch palm imprint whizzed out and slammed onto the innate formation runes. However, the innate formation runes flickered and ignored the 5 Monarch palm imprint, passing through it and continuing towards Feng Zichen. What? Feng Zichen was surprised. With a thought, 5-colored divine light bloomed from his body. It was extremely bright and carried the power of creation of the 5 elements as it swept towards the innate formation pattern. Whoosh! The innate 5 elemental divine light swept past the innate formation runes without any effect. It was as if the innate formation runes were illusory and not real. Thunder, come! Feng Zichen's expression changed, and his right hand suddenly formed a seal. Thunder and lightning intertwined and turned into a bolt of 10,000 godly thunder that blasted forward. Rumble! Thunder and lightning exploded and evolved into the sun, moon, stars, mountains, rivers, grass, and trees. Everything in the universe was like a magnificent world. It crashed onto the innate formation runes and blasted them into pieces. Rumble! 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 Seeing that the 10,000 godly thunder was effective, Feng Zichen heaved a sigh of relief. He raised his hand and released several bolts of 10,000 godly thunder in an attempt to shatter the innate formation runes. As if it had sensed danger, the innate formation runes suddenly changed and the space changed again. The 6 directions were suddenly out of place, and the heavens and the earth were turned upside down. Under this force, Feng Zichen's sense of direction was immediately blurred. The 10,000 godly thunder that was originally heading towards the front suddenly turned around and charged towards him. Innate 6 directions formation. Feng Zichen raised his virtuous spiritual light to block the 10,000 godly thunder. He stood there quietly and did not move. At this moment, he understood that the formation that trapped him was called the innate 6 directions formation. It was a supreme formation derived from the innate 6 directions Tao. What was the 6 directions? It was the 4 directions of heaven and earth: east, west, north, south, up and down. In this formation, nothing that belonged to the 6 directions, Tao, could shake it at all. Feng Zichen's innate 5 elements, divine light, and the 5 emperors' great handprint came from the sacred beasts of the 5 directions. How could they break this formation? Fortunately, after the Primordial War, this formation was severely damaged and its power was greatly reduced. It's not difficult to break it. If this formation was still in its peak state, it would be troublesome today. After carefully sensing for a while, Feng Zichen could not help but feel relieved. This place should be the remains of a battlefield where the primordial great masters had set up the innate 6 directions formation to fight against the innate ferocious beasts. Break! Feng Zichen took out the Hongming Daozhong and blasted it at the center of the formation. In an instant, the qi of Hongmeng surged out and drowned the innate 6 directions formation. The innate formation patterns were assimilated, and the formation broke with a loud bang. As the formation broke, a tattered god clock with holes all over its body emerged from the void and floated in front of Feng Zichen. Innate 6 directions bell. He reached out and took the god clock. Information about it automatically appeared in Feng Zichen's mind. This was the eternal spiritual treasure of the primordial great god. Taoist 6 directions, Tao being. It was a supreme grade innate spiritual treasure. Of course, it was now severely damaged and could not maintain its grade. It had already fallen to a middle grade innate spiritual treasure. However, if he could repair the cracks on the innate 6 directions bell, it would be able to recover further and become a superior grade innate spiritual treasure. As for restoring it to a supreme grade innate spiritual treasure, there was no hope of it being restored without a shocking opportunity. Below the innate 6 directions formation was a vast battlefield where 4 balls of innate origins appeared. 1 was clear and 3 were black, and they were entangled with each other. This 6 directions Taoist is so powerful. He could still force them to self-destruct when fighting 1 against 3. If he could survive from the primordial age, his achievements might not be weaker than the ancestral dragons. What a pity! Seeing such a powerful existence die here, Feng Zichen could not help but sigh. Judging from the remaining aura of 6 directions Taoist, he was probably not weaker than some demi-saints. However, there was no demi-saint in the primordial age. Daluo Jingxian was already at the end of the great path. If 6 directions Taoist could take another step forward under such circumstances, he was extraordinary. Whoosh! Without needing Feng Zichen to call, the Tree of Worlds sensed the aura of the innate origins. It extended a root and took root in the innate origins, absorbing it frantically. Chapter 162. Rumble. The entire Archean ruins was shaking. Huge cracks appeared on the ground, crisscrossing and unfathomable, as if it was about to shatter. What's going on? Why would the Archean ruins show signs of collapsing out of the blue? Jumping up from the ground, Feng Zichen looked at the Archean ruins below in confusion. The sudden tremors caused the strange and dangerous places around him to explode one after another. If he had not reacted quickly and flew into the air in time, he would have been covered in dust. This tremor came and went quickly. It didn't take long for it to stop as if it had never happened. If it were not for the huge cracks on the ground and the messy ground that indicated the tremors that had happened just now, Feng Zichen would have thought that his experience just now was an illusion. Strange, why would I have such thoughts? At this moment, Feng Zichen suddenly realized that something was wrong. No matter what, he was an expert comparable to the Daluo Jingxian. Even if there was still a gap between him and the real Daluo Jingxian, it was not by much. The Daluo had the 3 flowers of eternity above his head, the 5 qis of Chaiyuan in his chest, and he jumped out of the river of fate to prove his Tao in the universe. Therefore, everything that the Daluo Jingxian had experienced was inevitable. It was incomparably real and was engraved in time and space. There was no way to fake it, but now he actually doubted the authenticity of what he had experienced. This shocked him. Thinking of this, Feng Zichen did not dare to hesitate. He took out the chaos bead and the Hongmeng Daozhong at the same time and blasted them into the surrounding void. I'd like to see who's behind this. With a boom, the place almost collapsed. The sky shattered like porcelain falling to the ground. It was the Hongmeng Daozhong and the chaos bead that broke through all matter and obliterated all laws. Young friend, your strength is indeed extraordinary. You noticed that something was wrong so quickly. I thought that you would only notice it after a while. After the void was completely destroyed, streams of black gas surged out and condensed into an old Taoist in front of Feng Zichen. The old Taoist said to him with a smile. The moment this old man appeared, Feng Zichen felt a sense of crisis that he hadn't felt in a long time. It was as if this old man was a ferocious beast that could devour him at any time. The black qi was chaos baleful qi, and the language was chaos Dao language. This old man was Daluo Jingxian, a Daluo Jingxian born as a Xiantian beast. Greetings, Taoist priests. How should I address you, Taoist priests? No matter how shocked he was, Feng Zichen remained calm on the surface. He calmly bowed and asked him, This sovereign was born from the fate of the Tao of illusion. I am the ruler of the Tao of illusion. The world calls me the illusion sovereign. The old man chuckled as he spoke. Bullsh *T. Do you really think that I haven't seen the chaos demon god? Also, before you speak, can you cover up the chaotic evil qi on your body? Do you really think I'm blind by putting it so blatantly next to me? After hearing the old man's words, Feng Zichen couldn't help but roll his eyes. This ominous beast was treating him like a fool. This was really intolerable. Obviously, him was treating him like a fool. Feng Zichen had planned to pretend to be a snake with him for a while, but now he couldn't care so much. He directly said to him, Senior, do I look like a fool to you? Following Feng Zichen's gaze, the illusion sovereign apparently also noticed the chaos baleful qi on his body. He couldn't help coughing awkwardly and explained, Cough, cough. Young friend, you've misunderstood. The chaos baleful qi on my body is from being entangled with Xiantian ominous beasts for many years. It's not from me. Young friend, if you don't believe me, you can come forward and have a look. While speaking, the illusion sovereign's voice suddenly became low, with bursts of bewitchment, tempting people's minds, making them unconsciously believe in him and do as him said. Is that so? Muttering to himself, Feng Zichen walked forward absent-mindedly. In the illusion sovereign's excited expression, he came in front of him, raised the Hongmeng Daozhong, and smashed it down with all his strength. Humph! Caught off guard, the illusion venerable was smashed by the primordial chaos Dao bell. He couldn't help but let out a muffled groan and immediately shattered, turning into streaks of chaotic fiendish qi that fled in all directions. Humph, want to leave? I've been guarding against you. Stay here. Feng Zichen waved his big sleeve and poured all of his spiritual power into the Hongmeng Daozhong, causing it to become hundreds of thousands of feet large, covering everything in the surroundings, including the chaos baleful qi. However, the illusion sovereign was an expert who had survived the ancient war, so he was naturally very alert. In the chaos baleful qi, there was only his divine thought, and his true body was not here. Die! Just as Feng Zichen was investigating the chaos baleful qi, the illusion sovereign's cold voice suddenly sounded between heaven and earth. At the same time, an illusory mirror appeared, reflecting all kinds of illusory scenes and enveloping Feng Zichen. Haha! Life is full of changes, and the world of mortals intertwines with all kinds of love and hatred. You will slowly fall in this chaotic world of mortals. At that time, I will devour you, and I will be able to recover a lot of origin, and get rid of the state of neither life nor death. Seeing Feng Zichen being devoured by the world of mortals, the illusion sovereign couldn't help but laugh. His mirror was called the Mortal Mirror, and it was a supreme grade innate spirit treasure. It contained the 5 turbid qi, and it could play out all kinds of scenes, destroying one's Tao heart and cutting off one's Tao path. Feng Zichen was trapped in it, and it wouldn't be long before his Tao heart declined, and he fell into self-doubt, dying from Tao disintegration. The illusion sovereign was very confident in the mortal mirror. During the ancient war, he had relied on this mirror to play out the 5 turbid evil world, confusing his opponents and creating the illusion that he was already dead, leaving behind a trace of life for himself. According to the illusion sovereign's original plan, after the war ended and everyone left, he would sneak away, rushing to the chaos to recover and hide, waiting for the future. But he didn't expect that as soon as the war ended, before he could leave, the surviving innate gods would join forces and use a secret art to sink the ancient battlefield into the depths of the river of time and space, completely sealing it. With so many innate gods joining forces, even if the illusion sovereign was at his peak, he still wouldn't be able to stop them. Not to mention, he was heavily injured at the time and was on the verge of death. Like this, the illusion sovereign was sealed into the depths of the river of time and space along with the ancient battlefield, falling into a state of ignorance. It wasn't until Feng Zichen and the others accidentally stirred up the river of time and broke the seal that the illusion sovereign was able to awaken. It was also because of this that from ancient times until now, countless years had passed, but the illusion sovereign's injuries didn't worsen, nor did they get better. He had always been in the state he was in before he was sealed. Otherwise, with so many years and so many resources piled up here, just how much would the illusion sovereign's strength have risen to? It was likely that as soon as Feng Zichen and the others entered, they would have been killed by the illusion sovereign. Chapter 163. Within the worldly phenomena, Feng Zichen's eyes flashed with all kinds of scenes. Some were about his previous life, some were about the present, and some were about the future. They were all disturbing and disturbing his mind. It was easy to break this kind of spell that used illusions to affect one's mind and Tao heart, but it was extremely difficult to carry it out. The root of this kind of spell was to find the flaw in the depths of the enemy's heart and magnify it infinitely, causing the enemy's emotions to collapse and damage their mind to destroy their Tao heart. If one had a flawless Tao heart, they would be able to ignore this kind of spell. No matter how much the worldly phenomena surged, I will remain unmoved. What can you do to me? This was the best way to deal with this kind of spell. It was also the most direct and effective way. However, when people had desires, they would also have selfishness. In the Eldritch world, how many people had a flawless Tao heart? At the very least, Feng Zichen did not have one. However, this spell could not do anything to him because he had the merit of splitting the heavens in his body. Calming his mind, Feng Zichen communicated with the merit of splitting the heavens in his body. In an instant, purple light rose from his body. It was mysterious and incomparably noble, exuding the aura of the great Tao. This merit of splitting the heavens had not moved since it entered his body, so much so that Feng Zichen had almost forgotten about its existence. Not long ago, he had been confused by the illusion god and almost fell for his Tao. While he was shocked, he suddenly thought of the merit of splitting the heavens. Merit, in addition to increasing one's cultivation and increasing one's luck, its greatest use was to protect one's mind, not to mention the merit of splitting the heavens. At that time, the illusion god had used a bewitching voice to tempt him. Feng Zichen had relied on the power of the merit of splitting the heavens to ignore it, causing the illusion god to suffer a great loss. Wherever the purple light shone, all the illusions melted and turned into nothingness. Feng Zichen's chaotic mind also slowly calmed down. Impossible. How did you break my worldly 10,000 phenomena? Seeing Feng Zichen leisurely walk out of the worldly manifestation, the illusion sovereign exclaimed in disbelief. Immediately he activated the worldly mirror, causing the worldly qi to cover Feng Zichen. In the primordial age, the heavenly Tao was still ignorant. Even the Taoist scriptures were still being nurtured. How could the cultivation civilization be as prosperous as it was today? Some of the common knowledge of today's world might have been secrets that were rarely known by people at that time. The matter of merit being able to raise one's cultivation began in ancient times, when the heavenly Tao was further perfected. That day, the ancestral dragon established the scaled lineage, and good karma descended from the heavens, causing his cultivation to improve greatly. That was the first merit bestowed by the heavenly Tao after the creation of the primordial world. It was also from that day onwards that all living beings in the untainted land knew that in addition to cultivation, the black and yellow merit could also improve their cultivation. After the immemorial era, the illusion lord had always been in a sealed state. He had never experienced the immemorial era and had long been out of touch with the times. How could he know the mysteries of merit? Now that he wanted to use the qi of the mortal world to lure Feng Zichen into depravity, how could it have the slightest effect? It was nothing more than a futile effort. Not good. This child has many spiritual treasures on him. I can't do anything to him. It's better to leave as soon as possible, lest I fail miserably and be suppressed by his spiritual treasures. Thinking like this, the illusion lord had the intention to retreat. He shouted at Feng Zichen, "I will remember today's matter. In the future, when my injuries are healed, I will come and settle the karma with little friend." With that, the illusion lord rode the mortal world mirror and fled into the distance. After the primordial war, the injuries he had suffered were far too severe. His innate fiend god body had been completely obliterated by his opponent, completely disappearing from the primordial world. Even his innate true spirit, which was undying and indestructible, had been shattered by his opponent, leaving only a tiny bit behind. To be able to keep his life was already a great fortune. As for his strength, it had long since fallen to an unknown degree. Now that his strength had plummeted, he was unable to use any of his supernatural abilities. He could only rely on the mortal world mirror to deal with his opponent. But he never imagined that Feng Zichen would possess the merit of opening the heavens. The mortal world mirror that had always been successful in the past was completely useless in front of him. As a result, the illusion lord had lost his means to deal with his enemy, so he naturally had to find a way to leave. In any case, the seal here had already been broken. As long as he could escape, then with the vastness of the primordial world, who would be able to find him? Once his injuries were healed, he would naturally look for Feng Zichen to take revenge for today. Chaos bead, freeze! At this point, how could Feng Zichen allow him to escape? He immediately took out the chaos bead and froze the surrounding space and time for thousands of miles. Then, holding the Hongmeng Daozhong, he threw it at the illusion lord. But the mortal world mirror was, after all, a supreme grade innate spirit treasure. How could it be suppressed so easily? A red light shone from its body. With a fierce struggle, it broke free from the suppression of the chaos bead and continued to flee into the distance. But this momentary pause was enough for Feng Zichen to rush over. He raised his hand, and the Hongmeng Daozhong suddenly flew out and covered the mortal world mirror. At the same time, the chaos bead spun, and the surrounding suppression force suddenly shrank. From thousands of miles, it became tens of thousands of miles, a million miles. In the end, it only covered an area of 3 feet, firmly suppressing the mortal world mirror. Under the combined suppression of the Hongmeng Daozhong and the chaos bead, besides innate spirit treasures, there was no other innate spirit treasure in the primordial world that could contend with them, let alone the mortal world mirror, which was inferior to them to begin with. After suppressing the mortal world mirror, Feng Zichen looked at the illusion lord in the mirror, but he was in a dilemma. He was not the mighty figure from the ancient times who fought against the illusion lord. That existence could destroy the illusion lord's innate Taoism aptitude and shatter its immortal true spirit. Feng Zichen did not have this ability. Suppressing the illusion lord was already his strongest move. This is troublesome. Looking at the 3 spirit treasures suspended in the air, Feng Zichen was in a dilemma. The Hongmeng Daozhong and the Chaos Bead were of great use to him. It was a bit of a waste to use them to suppress the illusion lord and the mortal world mirror. But if he let the illusion lord go, wouldn't that be a joke? Not to mention that the mortal world mirror was a complete, supreme grade, innate spirit treasure. Would the illusion lord be grateful if he let it go? The hatred of a Daluo Jinxian was enough of a headache, not to mention that this Daluo Jinxian could also control ferocious beasts. As the innate ferocious beasts directly bred from the flesh and blood of the Chaos Demon God, they were the first generation of ferocious beasts, the original ferocious beasts. The later ferocious beasts were all created by the Chaos Demon God using them as samples. Therefore, they were the natural kings of the ferocious beasts. The ferocious beasts were naturally under their control. The illusion lord is too dangerous. I can't let it go no matter what. After thinking about it, Feng Zichen made a decision in his heart. He decided to use the Hongmeng Daozhong and the Mark of Mount Buzhou to suppress the illusion lord and free up the Chaos Bead. After all, most of his wealth was in the Chaos Bead. If the illusion lord was suppressed in it, and something happened to him, he would have nowhere to cry. Chapter 164. Kaboom! Vast divine power descended. The shadow of Mount Buzhou slowly appeared in Hongmeng Daozhong. It was extremely heavy and pressed the Hongqian mirror under it. At the same time, Feng Zichen recalled the Chaos Bead. Suddenly, the power that suppressed time and space suddenly disappeared. The pressure on the Hongqian mirror was also reduced. However, the shadow of Mount Buzhou was only a shadow after all. It was not as powerful as the Chaos Bead. Within the primordial Chaos Dao Bell, without the suppression of the primordial Chaos Bead, the red dust mirror began to tremble violently. It lifted the illusory image of Mount Buzhou high up, wanting to overturn it so that it could escape. Suppress! Feng Zichen formed a seal with his hands and activated the primordial Chaos Dao Bell with all his might. He used the Chaos Demon God imprint that it had imprinted on his body to augment the phantom of Mount Buzhou. In the next moment, countless runes flashed and danced on Hongmeng Daozhong, releasing a dazzling purple light. The shadows of the demon god appeared and walked toward the shadow of Mount Buzhou. When the mark of the Chaos Demonic God was imprinted on the shadow of Mount Buzhou, the shadow became more solid and thicker, stopping its ascent. Then, with each additional Chaos Demon God mark, the shadow of Mount Buzhou became more solid and heavier. It gradually gained the upper hand and suppressed the Hongqian mirror. When the 100th Chaos Demon God mark appeared on the shadow of Mount Buzhou, the Hongqian mirror was completely suppressed and had completely lost the ability to resist. However, Feng Zichen was still worried. He continued to brand the Chaos Demon God marks. Feng Zichen only stopped when the phantom of Mount Buzhou let out a groan, as if it was about to shatter if he continued to imprint on it. At this time, the shadow of Mount Buzhou had been branded with 500 Chaos Demon God marks. With the support of these Demon God marks, its power was even stronger. Its figure even had a hint of texture, as if it was about to become real and appear in the world. I didn't expect the shadow of Mount Buzhou to have such a change after adding the mark of the Chaos Demonic God. Henceforth, I found the path to upgrade this mystique. The change in the shadow of Mount Buzhou caught Feng Zichen's attention. Just 100 demonic god imprints had increased the power of the shadow of Mount Buzhou by more than 10 times. If all 3,000 demonic god imprints were imprinted on it, how much more powerful would it become? Perhaps it could rival the real Mount Buzhou. Calming his mind, Feng Zichen followed the feeling in the dark and connected with his true body. He planned to send Hongmeng Daozhong to the North Star and use the power of the North Star to destroy the illusion sovereign. The power of the purple star was peerlessly domineering. It contained the aura of an emperor, and it could destroy all techniques and isolate all Daos. It could practically restrain all powers in the primordial world. Edict. On the North Star, Feng Zichen's true body in the Dao embryo slowly opened its eyes and sent out an edict. It opened a passage to the outside world and brought Hongmeng Daozhong over. Rumble. The power of the North Star surged out and poured into Hongmeng Daozhong. It wrapped around the red dust mirror and began to slowly erase the imprints that the illusion sovereign had left on it. When the imprints on the red dust mirror were completely erased, the treasure would become an ownerless object. At that time, as long as Feng Zichen refined it, the illusion sovereign would be a fish on the chopping board at his mercy. Now that Hongmeng Daozhong is on the North Star, I can't use it. It seems that I have to be more careful. Feng Zichen sighed and looked around before flying into the distance. He had caused such a huge commotion here. If the 3 demonic Dao cultivators came to investigate and he was blocked here, how could the world devastator Taoist let him go? After flying for several days, Feng Zichen was just about to find a place to rest when the ancient ruins shook again, even more violently than before. Where is this tremor coming from? Why is it so strong? After the tremor stopped, Feng Zichen checked the surroundings but did not find the cause of the tremor. He could not help but have a bold guess. Could it be that this place is really going to collapse? The tremor came out of nowhere, but its power was extraordinary. It had caused the entire ruins to crack. Other than the fact that it was going to collapse, Feng Zichen could not think of any other reason. However, even if this place is going to collapse, it won't be done in a short time. It's definitely not wrong to take advantage of this time to get some benefits. Feng Zichen did not care much about whether this place was going to collapse or not. However, when he thought of the opportunities here, he immediately took action. There were only a few places in the entire primordial world that were filled with opportunities like this. In the next 1,000 years, there were 6 more tremors in the ancient ruins, each stronger than the previous one. The entire ruins were shaken into countless fragments of various sizes and were on the verge of collapse. According to this, if there is another strong tremor, this ruin will completely collapse. Feng Zichen stood in the void and looked at the devastated land. He could not help but sigh. Over the years, he had found a total of 6 places where the Daluo Jinxian had fallen. However, he only obtained a ball of congenital origin because 5 of the battlefields were empty and their origins had been taken away. Feng Zichen was not surprised by this. After all, the size of the ancient ruins was limited. The 6 of them had been here for thousands of years. These Daluo battlefields should have been discovered by them. Let's wait a little longer. I have a hunch that when this place collapses, a treasure may be born. As the ancient ruins gradually approached destruction, Feng Zichen also had a strange feeling. It seemed that there was a treasure deep in the earth, waiting for the opportunity to be born. Immediately, Feng Zichen found a secluded place and hid there. As he waited for the treasure to be born, he tried his best to improve his strength in preparation for the upcoming battle. If he could sense the treasure being born, the world devastator Taoist and the others should be able to sense it as well. When the treasure was born, a great battle would naturally be unavoidable. Now that Hongmeng Daozhong was not around, his strength was greatly reduced. If he did not make use of the time to improve his strength, he would not have a share in the treasure being born. Rumble! The sound of mountains collapsing and the earth cracking rang out. The entire ancient ruins shook violently and kept collapsing. Pieces of debris separated from its body and flowed along the long river of time and space to an unknown place. The ancient ruins are collapsing. In a cave somewhere, Feng Zichen opened his eyes and disappeared from the place. He came to the void and stared at the center of the ruins. Over there, a strange wave of energy was transmitted, guiding his mind. Clearly, the treasure was there. Die. Suddenly, the World Devastator Taoist's cold voice sounded in Feng Zichen's ears. Before he could react, a jet-black arrow shot out and pierced through him. Almost at the same time, countless vengeful spirits appeared beside him and surged into his body, devouring his soul. The black lotus of destruction quietly appeared under his feet and turned slightly, crushing his body. Chapter 165. Buddha's Pagoda, Go! After summoning the Buddha's Pagoda, the World Devastator Taoist wanted to take away Feng Zichen's true spirit and torture him day and night, completely cutting off his vitality. However, the Buddha's Pagoda spun in the air for a while, but could not find Feng Zichen's true spirit. No, where is his true spirit? Realizing that something was wrong, the World Devastator Taoist hurriedly looked in the direction of Feng Zichen. He saw Feng Zichen's shattered body suddenly turn into streams of chaos chi and dissipate into the world, disappearing without a trace. Damn it! It's a clone! With a furious roar, the World Devastator Taoist suddenly summoned the Buddha's Pagoda and blasted it into the surrounding void, shattering the surrounding void. Whoosh! Fortunately, I was cautious enough and did not run out recklessly. Instead, I created a clone and sent him out to test the waters. Otherwise, I might not have been able to block those 3 attacks. In a certain void thousands of miles away, Feng Zichen could not help but heave a sigh of relief when he saw what happened to the clone through the Chaos Pearl. If he had known that everyone would be present when the Supreme Treasure appeared, he would not have dared to take the initiative to show himself, considering his enmity with the World Devastator Taoist. Therefore, he created a clone and went out to check the situation. The result was just as he had seen. In the blink of an eye, the 3 demonic Tao cultivators had blasted his soul and body into pieces. He had used the Chaos Pearl's characteristics to cut off a figure that belonged to him in the past and infused it with Chaos Chi. Therefore, the clone's aura was exactly the same as Feng Zichen's. It was enough to pass off as the real one. Just as the World Devastator Taoist was raging, there was a new commotion in the center of the primordial ruin where the supreme treasure was hidden. Boom! In the depths of the earth, streaks of mysterious yellow light shot into the sky, dyeing the sky a mysterious yellow color. It was extremely dazzling. The sound of Tao reverberated as the great Tao manifested. Spirit rain poured down, and order manifested amidst various grand phenomena. A ball of yellow light slowly rose from the depths of the earth like the sun. It emitted a dazzling light that enveloped the entire primordial ruin. Immediately, the collapse of the ancient ruins stopped. The moment this item appeared, a sweet fragrance spread out. This was the aura of the source of life, causing hundreds of flowers to bloom. All living things were once again filled with vitality. Patches of green appeared on the ground. The aura of heaven and earth circulated around this mysterious yellow light, making it seem as high as the sky and as heavy as the earth. It was as if everything in the world could be found on its body. That is Xianhuang Mother Qi. When they saw this scene, everyone was first stunned, then they were overjoyed. They recognized the origin of this item. Profound represented the heavens, yellow represented the earth. Xian and Huang are the chaos of heaven and earth. Xian in the sky and Huang in the earth. The Xianhuang Mother Qi was the foundation of all things, the root of the heaven and earth. It was mysterious and unfathomable. Regardless of whether it was used to forge weapons or raise one's cultivation base, it was of great use. The full name of merit was called Xianhuang Merit Qi. From this, it could be seen how extraordinary the Xianhuang Mother Qi was. Let's go. Looking at each other, the three from the demon path worked together to activate the pagoda. First, they sealed the area and concealed all auras. Then, they reached out to grab the Xianhuang Mother Qi. Oh no! Seeing that the Xianhuang Mother Qi was about to fall into the hands of the three, Feng Zichen was extremely anxious. However, he did not dare to make any moves. At this moment, he was alone. How could he be a match for the three of them? He was afraid that as soon as he appeared, he would be smashed into pieces and turned into ashes. How dare you? Leave the treasure behind! At this moment, Kuo Fu and Xing Tian rushed over from afar. They raised the weapons in their hands and attacked the pagoda in the air. You're courting death. Sensing Xing Tian and Kuo Fu's actions, Mi Tian and Emo Luo immediately gave up on the Xianhuang Mother Qi and turned around. They worked together to activate the pagoda and attack Xing Tian and Kuo Fu, holding them back. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the World Devastator Taoist immediately took out the Black Lotus of Destruction and tried to retrieve the Xianhuang Mother Qi. Tut! Seeing that his helpers had arrived, Feng Zichen no longer hid himself. He suddenly leaped out of the void and took out the Chaos Bead to attack the Black Lotus of Destruction. You again! Seeing Feng Zichen, the World Devastator Taoist's heart burned with anger. He immediately ignored the Xianhuang Mother Qi and called back the Black Lotus of Destruction to fight with him. On the other side, seeing that the World Devastator Taoist was blocked by Feng Zichen, Mi Tian and Emo Luo used all their strength to push Xing Tian and Kuo Fu away. They immediately retreated and rushed toward the Xianhuang Mother Qi. You want to leave? Have you asked for permission from the axe in my hand? Xing Tian suddenly swung the Heaven Punishment Axe. The axe light distorted space and appeared in front of the two demonic cultivators, forcing them back. Kill! Turning around, killing intent surged from Mi Tian's body. The sky mirror above his head bloomed with dazzling light. The figures of three Xiantian ferocious beasts appeared. They were surrounded by a terrifying chaotic aura as they charged toward the two demonic cultivators. With a flip of his hand, Emo Luo took out several long arrows, knocked them on the god-slaying bow, and shot them at the two demonic cultivators. These arrows were acquired spirit treasures. Although they were not as good as acquired supreme treasures, they were still extremely terrifying. After staying in the primordial ruins for thousands of years, everyone had their own fortuitous encounters, and their strength had increased significantly. The small gap between them back then had not widened. For a moment, no one could do anything to the other. The battle gradually fell into a stalemate. Buzz! Just as everyone was in a stalemate, the Xianhuang Mother Qi suddenly moved. As if sensing something, it flew toward the primordial world. Oh no! When they saw this, everyone couldn't care about each other anymore, and they all stopped successively before executing various techniques to grab towards the sky-yellow source Qi. Feng Zichen's connate 5 elements divine light swept out and swept away 1/10 of the Xianhuang Mother Qi. The Black Lotus of Destruction spun and took away 1/10 of the Xianhuang Mother Qi. The Heaven Punishment Axe slashed down and cut off 1/10 of the Xianhuang Mother Qi. Kuo Fu waved the wooden staff in his hand, Mi Tian raised the all-sky mirror, and Emo Luo kept drawing his bow. Each of them took 1/10 of the Xianhuang Mother Qi. The remaining Xianhuang Mother Qi trembled in the air for a moment before shattering into thousands of wisps of Xianhuang Mother Qi that fled in all directions. Condense! The World Devastator Taoist pointed at the pagoda. Supreme Taoist rhymes spread out and froze the dispersing Xianhuang Mother Qi, condensing it back into Xianhuang Mother Qi. However, no matter how fast the World Devastator Taoist reacted, half of the Xianhuang Mother Qi still merged into the void and disappeared. Let's go! After taking away the Xianhuang Mother Qi, the World Devastator Taoist hurriedly shouted at Mi Tian and Emo Luo before turning to leave. Don't think of leaving. Mount Buzhou suppress. How could Feng Zichen let them leave after obtaining the treasure? Without thinking, he used the Buzhou seal to suppress the three of them. Beside him, Kuafu and Xing Tian hurriedly activated their bloodline power and poured it into the phantom of Mount Buzhou to strengthen its power. Chapter 166. The moment the phantom of Mount Buzhou appeared, the surrounding space-time froze, sealing off the retreat routes of the three demon path cultivators and forcing them to turn back to face the enemy. Stupa Pagoda kill. The three of them joined forces to activate the Stupa Pagoda. Death intent surged out, and a vast world of death faintly emerged, as if it was the home of all spirits. It was incomparably terrifying, its power far surpassing that of the Black Lotus of Destruction as it collided with the phantom of Mount Buzhou. If it were before, the phantom of Mount Buzhou might not have been a match for the Stupa Pagoda, but the situation was different now. Feng Zichen's mind stirred, and he saw the figures of chaos demon gods appear on the phantom of Mount Buzhou. In the blink of an eye, 500 demon gods appeared, causing the power of the phantom of Mount Buzhou to soar dozens of times and directly suppress the Stupa Pagoda. This was the result of Feng Zichen's efforts in recent years. Knowing that he would not be able to increase his cultivation in a short period of time, he took advantage of the time before the supreme treasure appeared to brand the mark of chaos demon gods on the phantom of Mount Buzhou, increasing its power and achieving his goal of increasing his strength in a short period of time. Mount Buzhou again. Do you really think my demon path has no other means? Mi Tian coldly snorted as the phantom of Mount Buzhou suppressed the Stupa Pagoda. Demonic qi surged from his body as he suddenly raised his right hand and began to draw in the void. As he moved, strange demonic runes emerged from his hand, flickering with black light as they were branded in the void, gradually forming a demonic seal that was cold and incomparably awe-inspiring. The moment the demonic seal was formed, the evil qi, tribulation qi, death qi, resentment qi, and other kinds of evil qi that were wandering in the ancient ruins seemed to be summoned and poured into the demonic seal. Evil qi was the foundation of the demon path. This ancient battlefield was filled with all kinds of evil qi. For demon path cultivators, it was no less than a holy land. Therefore, this place was the home field of the demon path and had a natural advantage for them. Go. Mi Tian pointed at the demon seal, and the demon seal was able to cross the blockade of Mount Buzhou's phantom, enter its interior, and merge with the pagoda. In an instant, the sense of death released by the pagoda became even stronger. Every level of the pagoda glowed, and one world of death after another appeared behind it. Counting carefully, there were a total of 18 of them, which corresponded to the 18 levels of the pagoda. The aura emitted by the world of death was infinitely close to that of the great wide world. These worlds of death appeared one after another, from the lowest to the highest. Every time a world appeared, it would push up the phantom of Mount Buzhou and weaken its suppressive power. Gradually, as more and more worlds of death took shape, the shadow of Mount Buzhou was shrouded by the worlds of death and completely lost its function. Following this, the world of death rapidly expanded and directly attacked Feng Zichen and the others. It wanted to pull them into the Buddha's pagoda and sink into eternal oblivion. Chaos bead rise. A black light flashed on the chaos bead, and strands of chaos qi hung down, enveloping Feng Zichen and the others, isolating them from the space-time they were in, causing them to wander outside of space-time. No matter how strong the pagoda was, it was only an acquired cardinal treasure. It could not reach the level of a connate cardinal treasure, and it was still on the same level as the chaos bead. Even though Feng Zichen's magic power was far inferior to the three demonic cultivators, the pagoda would not be able to break through the chaos bead's defense in a short period of time. The worlds of death flowed past them like flowing water, without causing any ripples, as if they did not exist. However, the the Buddha's pagoda could not do anything to them. The three demonic cultivators had finally gained the upper hand. So how could they give up so easily? At that moment, they did not care about escaping. They each took out their spirit treasures and used their strongest divine abilities to attack Feng Zichen and the others. Under the joint attack of the three, countless space-time shattered, and the divine light of destruction shot out, destroying everything. The god-vanquishing arrows were incomparably sharp and terrifying. Countless vengeful spirits appeared. They were of different shapes and sizes, and they formed a strange formation. Endless demonic aura spread out, as if they wanted to devour everything. It's a pity that the witch race does not have an essence spirit and cannot activate their Dharma treasures. Otherwise, the three of us would have activated the Chaos Bead together and destroyed the World Devastator Taoist and the others long ago. Feng Zichen thought helplessly as he took out the Zichen sword and used the human Tao sword technique to shatter the divine light of destruction in front of him. Xing Tian alone had two connate spirit treasures. They had great origins and were not inferior to the All-Sky Mirror and the God Vanquishing Bow. They were extremely powerful. If Xing Tian could activate them, it would not be a problem for him to fight 1 against 3, but 1 against 2 would definitely not be a problem. The peachwood staff in Kwafu's hand had an unknown origin and grade, but it was like a connate spirit root. It had life aura and could fight against enemies on its own. It was extremely mysterious. In the hands of anyone, these 3 connate spirit treasures could unleash earth-shattering power. However, in the hands of Xing Tian and Kwafu, they could only be used as ordinary weapons. They could be used to hack, smash, or stab. They could not receive any help from them. They could only rely on their instincts to unleash their strength. How much power could they unleash? Because of this, Feng Zichen and the others gradually fell into a disadvantageous position under the combined attacks of the 3 demonic Tao cultivators and their Dharma treasures. Wait, I can't activate the connate spirit treasures without an origin spirit? In a daze, Feng Zichen suddenly thought of a secret technique that could activate the connate spirit treasures without the power of an origin spirit. At that thought, he summoned the light of merit. Enduring the pain in his heart, he cut off a small section of golden light from the light of merit and turned it back into Xianhuang Qi of merit, scattering it around. The Xianhuang Qi of merit was formed from the origin energy of the world, combined with the power of the heavenly Tao. It was the best at suppressing the evil Qi. It was stronger than the power of Yang in this aspect. In an instant, golden rain fell from the sky, falling on the surrounding vengeful spirits, evil Qi and tribulation Qi, making a sizzling sound and purifying them. After temporarily using the Qi of merit to block the attacks of the 3 demonic cultivators, Feng Zichen took the time to send a voice transmission to Xing Tian and Kwafu. Fellow Taoists, I have a method that can help you activate the connate spirit treasures. Take it and think about it carefully. It will be a surprise for the 3 of you. Then, ignoring the doubtful gazes of Xing Tian and Kwafu, 2 purple lights suddenly flew out from between Feng Zichen's eyebrows and landed on the foreheads of the 2. The purple light was the method of activating the spirit treasures. It was a secret technique that Feng Zichen created with the help of the heavenly Tao when he became a sky immortal in the past. He did not need to rely on the origin spirit and could activate the spirit treasures directly with his true spirit. Panga's blood was accidentally tainted with the evil Qi of heaven opening, so the wizard tribe could not produce origin spirits. However, not having origin spirits did not mean that there was no true spirit. The true spirit was the basis of the heavenly Tao. It was the foundation of a person. It could be said that only with a true spirit could one be considered a real living being. Who didn't have one? Chapter 167. Wonderful. Xing Tian and Kwafu were overjoyed when they understood the mystery of this technique. They immediately followed the method recorded in the secret technique and circulated the power of true spirit to activate the numinous treasure in their hands. 1. With the support of the true spirit force, the spirit treasure let out an excited, buzzing sound. Its aura suddenly soared, and the great Tao descended. It was incomparably terrifying, and it completely destroyed the attacks of the 3 demonic Tao cultivators, clearing the area. Seeing that the situation had turned around, Feng Zichen was determined to get rid of the 3 demon Tao cultivators once and for all. Please help me activate the numinous treasure in my hands to break the pagoda. All right. The 2 of them nodded and channeled their power of true spirit into the chaos bead. At this moment, under the control of the 3 Daluo Jinxian, the power of the chaos bead was completely unleashed. A terrifying power blasted out. The great Tao distorted the laws and messed up time and space. There was no up, down, east, south, west, past, or future in this place. All concepts were blurred and only chaos was left. In the next moment, the world suddenly went silent. A vast chaotic world appeared silently and replaced the time and space that everyone was in. This was the chaotic world, and it was filled with the laws that belonged to the chaos. Everything they knew about the eldritch world changed and became extremely unfamiliar. The sudden change in the great Tao of heaven and earth made everyone unable to adapt for a while. The power of many super skills was greatly reduced because of this. Even the brilliance of the pagoda dimmed significantly. Destroy. Taking advantage of the fact that the 3 demon Tao cultivators were greatly weakened, Feng Zichen made a series of hand seals. Amidst the lingering Tao rhymes, the chaotic qi in the surroundings was activated and devoured towards the 3 demon Tao cultivators. In the chaotic qi, there were the manifestations of earth, fire, water, and wind. There was the derivation of the 5 elements and the opening of yin and yang. It deduced the mysteries of the great Tao and the principles of the changes of the universe. It beat the 3 demon Tao cultivators until they were battered and battered. Explode the pagoda. The 3 demon Tao cultivators worked together to destroy the chaotic qi that was surging towards them. Then they made a hand seal and sent it into the pagoda, causing the 18 worlds behind it to explode. Rumble. The power of the destruction of the world was extremely strong. Almost in an instant, the chaotic world was blasted apart, breaking into pieces and fusing with the world. At the same time, Feng Zichen commanded with his mind, and the primal chaos bead suddenly flew out and arrived in the sky above the Buddha's pagoda before fixing it firmly in place. Let's go. It'll be too late if we don't leave now. The 3 of them were anxious and couldn't care less about the pagoda. They hurriedly seized the opportunity when the chaos world was shattered to charge out of the river of time and space, fleeing into the wilderness and vanishing. This time, Feng Zichen was dumbfounded. He had used the chaos bead to suppress the pagoda in order to force the 3 demonic cultivators to stay behind. He never expected them to abandon the pagoda and run away. At this moment, it was Feng Zichen's turn to have a headache. What use did he have for this pagoda? Of course, even if it worked, he wouldn't dare to use it. He didn't even dare to bring the pagoda with him. This was the treasure of the fiend ancestor Rahu. If he kept it with him, would he be looking for excitement for himself because he wasn't having a good time? At the thought that he would attract the attention of the fiend ancestor Rahu if he obtained this treasure, Feng Zichen felt his scalp tingle. Troublesome. Extremely troublesome. Fellow Taoist Zichen, I'll leave the Buddha's pagoda with you for now. I hope you can treat it well. When Master needs it in the future, he will come and retrieve it personally. Haha. At this moment, the world devastator Taoist's voice drifted over from afar and shook thousands of miles, interrupting Feng Zichen's thoughts. Damn it. Feng Zichen's face darkened when he heard the world devastator Taoist's words. Without a doubt, the master that the world devastator Taoist mentioned was undoubtedly the fiend ancestor. Retrieve it personally? What a load of bullsh! *T. Did he really think that Feng Zichin would be frightened? I'll enshrine the Buddha's pagoda in the Nuwa temple later. I don't believe that Rahu would dare to snatch something under the nose of a saint. With that thought, Feng Zichin's nervous emotions eased significantly. Not only did he feel a little happy, but he also relaxed. Fellow Taoist, you don't have to worry too much. If you trust us, you can place this pagoda in the Pengahal. At that time, even that person from the Purple Cloud Palace won't be able to take this pagoda, let alone the fiend ancestor. Kwafu stepped forward and said, as if he could see Feng Zichin's nervousness, Yes. It's all thanks to your help this time that we were able to achieve such great results. You've helped us a lot. When we return to the tribe, I'll ask the witch ancestor Hutu to help you erase the fiend ancestor's mark in the Buddha's pagoda and completely resolve your worries. Even if the witch ancestor Hutu can't do it, we still have 11 witch ancestors. They'll definitely think of a way. Xing Tian nodded and said, as a witch directly born from the Penga's bloodline, his status in the witch clan was second only to the 12 witch ancestors. With his face, it was not difficult to ask the witch ancestors to help. Therefore, when he said that he would ask the witch ancestors to help, he was full of confidence. Thank you for your kindness, fellow Taoist. However, I've already thought of a solution to this matter. There's no need to trouble the Taoist priests of the Hutu. Feng Zichin smiled and replied, it was the safest to put it in the Nuwa temple. Why did he have to ask the witch ancestors to help? It's good that you have a solution. Kwafu nodded and was about to say something when he happened to glance at the ancient ruins from the corner of his eye. His pupils constricted as he said to the two of them, This place is about to be destroyed. It's not a place to stay for long. Let's leave first. It turned out that while everyone was talking, the ancient ruins had completely shattered and flowed into an unknown place, completely disappearing from the long river of time and space. Without the protection of the ancient ruins, the aura of the three of them once again appeared in the long river of time and space, attracting the attention of Mount Bujo. It was about to suppress them. Let's go. Not daring to hesitate, the three of them worked together to open a passage to the present world. They stepped into it and returned to the untainted land. Fellow Taoists, this matter is over. I should take my leave. Stepping into the untainted land, Feng Zichin first took a deep breath, then turned around and said goodbye to the two of them. The pagoda was like a hot potato in his hand. He could not help but feel anxious when he held it in his hand. It was better to put it in the Nuwa temple as soon as possible. Seeing that Feng Zichin was about to leave, Kwafu hurriedly stepped forward and stopped him. He solemnly asked him, Fellow Taoist, please wait. Fellow Taoist, please wait. Your true spirit controlling spirit treasure technique is of great use to my clan. Please follow me back to my clan and pass down this technique. At that time, our witch tribe will definitely reward you greatly. After that, Kwafu bent down and bowed to Feng Zichin. Fellow Taoist, your secret method is really mysterious. It's simply tailor-made for our clan. It concerns the future of our witch tribe. Please pass down this method. Our witch tribe will never forget your kindness. Xing Tian put away his weapon, straightened his clothes, bent down, and bowed to Feng Zichin. Chapter 168. Although the physical bodies of the wizard clan were extremely powerful and were known as the strongest in the untainted land, their shortcomings were also very obvious. They did not have primordial spirits and could not activate connate spirit treasures. In the early stage of the witch-demon era, the strength of the demon clan was far inferior to that of the wizard clan. However, they could become stronger and stronger under the constant encirclement of the wizard clan. They even established the heavenly court and shared the untainted land with the wizard clan. What they relied on was not only the secret help of the heavenly Tao, but also the connate spirit treasures in their hands to resolve the fatal situations time and time again. If not for these connate spirit treasures, the demon clan would have been destroyed by the wizard clan long ago. From this, one could see the strength of the wizard clan. They could suppress the demon clan with their bare hands. If they were allowed to use connate spirit treasures, how strong would they be? The wizard clan would probably be recognized as one of the top clans in the untainted land. The importance of the method of controlling spirit treasures to the wizard clan was self-evident. It was no wonder that Xing Tian and Quafu had such an attitude. Fellow Taoists, you're too polite. It's not that I don't want to teach you this method. It's just that although this method is good, it has a huge flaw. It's fine if Daluo Jingxian uses this method. If Tai Jingxian and cultivators below use this method, it's really dangerous. If they're not careful, their true spirit will be damaged, causing their path forward to be cut off and they can't advance. At that time, I'll be in big trouble. Feng Zichen hurriedly walked forward, helped the two of them up, and explained to them. The true spirit was the foundation of a person. It was related to the future path of Tao. It was extremely important. It was not fun to use the true spirit to control the spirit treasures to fight the enemy. If they were not careful, the spirit treasures would be damaged. If the true spirit was affected, there would be nowhere to cry. Tai Jingxian and Golden Immortals were fine because their true spirits had a trace of immortal divinity. After millions of years of cultivation, they could always recover. However, how many millions of years could they delay? As for cultivators below the Golden Immortal realm, if their true spirits were damaged, they would be completely crippled and would never be able to advance to the Golden Immortal realm. Oh, it was not impossible to repair. When the reincarnation was opened in the future, they could still recover after thousands of reincarnations. However, at that time, how many people would be able to maintain their sanity? Even if he was awake, would he still be himself? It could be said that this method was specially prepared for Daluo Jingxian. Daluo Jingxian's true spirit was immortal and everlasting. Only they could use the power of their true spirit without any scruples, without the worry of their true spirit being damaged and affecting their path of Tao. The Dharma treasure controlled by the true spirit was even more powerful than the Dharma treasure controlled by the primordial spirit. Why didn't the great divine ability masters of the untainted land notice it? It was because the true spirit was too important that they did not think in this direction at all. At that time, Feng Zichen was a rash youth who didn't know anything. He foolishly thought that the true spirit had more advantages than the primordial spirit. So why did he still cultivate the primordial spirit? Wouldn't it be better to directly cultivate the true spirit? Thus, with this as his ideal, he excitedly created the true spirit cultivation method. Furthermore, for a long period of time, he had always been complacent about this. He felt that he was truly a wise person who could think of things that ordinary people could not. Little did he know that this technique left behind a huge hidden danger for the god and demon Tao. By the time he realized it, it was already too late. Otherwise, who would have thought of such a secret technique that would kill 800 enemies and harm 1,000 oneself? Xing Tian stood up and said to him, "Fellow Taoist, please don't worry. We naturally understand the drawbacks of this technique. After you pass down this technique, only Daluo Jingxian will be able to cultivate it. The rest of the clan will not be able to cultivate it. In that case, fellow Taoist, you can just pass down this technique. There's no need for me to make a trip to the Magi." Since he had already passed this technique to Xing Tian and Quafu, Feng Zichen had no intention of hiding this technique. Moreover, when he passed down the secret technique to the two of them, he did not say anything about not being able to spread it. It could be considered that he had tacitly allowed the two of them to spread this technique freely. He did not expect the two of them to be so honest. Not only did they want his permission, but they also wanted him to personally go to the Magi to pass down the technique. This inevitably made Feng Zichen's impression of the two of them increase by another level. One had to know that passing down this technique was a great thing that would benefit the entire clan. It would naturally be supported by luck. Not to mention, the Magi were the strongest race in the primordial world. The benefits they would receive were simply unimaginable. The two of them did not even consider and directly pushed it to him. It was obvious that they were of good character. Fellow Taoist, you must be joking. This is a matter that concerns the future of our clan. How can we do it for you? It's better for you to do it personally. When the time comes, you will naturally benefit from it. Seeing that Feng Zichen was unwilling to go to the Magi, Xing Tian was a little anxious and even promised the benefits in advance. Then I'll have to trouble you. Since the two of them were so honest, Feng Zichen could not refuse any more. He nodded and agreed. Besides, he was also curious about the Magi. He wanted to see what was different about the strongest race in the primordial world. You're welcome, you're welcome. Fellow Taoist, please follow me. Waving his hand, Xing Tian and Quafu brought Feng Zichen and flew towards the Earth Huda tribe. By the way, fellow Taoist, I heard that the ancestral magus of your clan is proficient in all flames in the world and has a deep understanding of the essence of weapon refinement. In terms of weapon refinement, he created a new method of weapon refinement for the Magi. Rumor has it that some of the divine weapons refined by him are not inferior to postnatal cardinal treasures. Why don't I see you guys using them? On the way to the Earth Huta tribe, Feng Zichen suddenly thought of a rumor and asked Xing Tian. Zhu Rong was born with the law of fire and could control all flames in the world to burn everything in the world. With such an advantage, he naturally had extraordinary achievements in the path of refining. It was said that Zhu Rong collected thousands of metals in the primordial world, tens of thousands of connate spirit materials, and fused them into a ball to refine 12 connate divine weapons. Each of them was not inferior to a connate spirit treasure and were used as the weapons of the 12 ancestral Magi. Based on the rumor, the Magi naturally had their own exclusive weapons. Why didn't the two of them use them in the battle just now? Don't mention it. If connate divine weapons are really as powerful as the rumors say and are not inferior to connate spirit treasures, the demon clan would have been destroyed by us long ago. Today's incident would not have happened. Xing Tian's expression changed, and he said to Feng Zichen helplessly, "The great Tao was the truth of the world and the cornerstone of the world. The laws were the rules of the world. The cultivators of the primordial world, be it the immortal Tao or the fiend Tao, all cultivated to comprehend the great Tao and explore the truth of the world in order to achieve Tao integration. However, the Magi were different. They were a race derived from the bloodline of the Pangu and could control the laws from birth. It could be said that they were born to control the order. With this advantage, they did not need to comprehend the great Tao. They only needed to comprehend the laws that they controlled to continuously improve. When they completely mastered their own laws, their laws would merge with the corresponding great Tao and they would be promoted to Daluo Jinxian. The extraordinariness of the Magi could be seen. Chapter 169. This place was not far from the Huda tribe, and the three of them were extremely fast. Soon, they stepped into the territory of the Huda tribe. What's that? From afar, Feng Zichen saw patches of green plants growing on the ground, which were quite similar to the seedlings of the later generations. However, compared to the seedlings, the plants here that looked like seedlings were undoubtedly much bigger. They were at least 30 feet tall, and their fruits were also different from those of the later generations. They were huge and had 5 fruits in 5 colors. They emitted the chi of the 5 elements. Obviously, they had all 5 elements. That's an inferior grade connate spiritual root, the connate 5-grain plant. It can produce fruits of the 5 elements, nourish the origin, strengthen the body, and fill the stomach. It's much better than some demon and ferocious beast meat. Hearing Feng Zichen's question, Xing Tian smiled and introduced it to him. Moreover, he took a step forward, plucked an ear of fruit, and handed it to Feng Zichen, saying, "My fellow cultivator, try it." 5 fruits in an ear of 5 colors. They were shaped like rice, but much bigger. Tao will of the 5 elements flowed around them, emitting bursts of fragrance, which was very tempting. Just like that, eat it raw. Taking the connate 5-grain fruit from Xing Tian, Feng Zichen looked at him with some confusion and said hesitantly, this thing was so similar to rice that he thought he would eat it after it was cooked. He didn't expect Xing Tian to let him eat it raw. Yes, isn't the connate spiritual fruit eaten directly? My fellow cultivator Zichen, do you have other ways to eat it? Scratching his head, Xing Tian revealed a look of surprise and asked in confusion, Haha, my fellow cultivator, please don't blame me. I was thinking too much. Feng Zichen smiled a little embarrassedly. He forgot that this was not the human tribe, and few people would make a fire to cook. Everything in this world was made of connate qi. If you wanted to eat something, you could directly refine it into a ball of connate qi and swallow it. There was no need to make a fire to cook, which was so troublesome. Like the human race, they cooked their food before eating it, not because it was delicious, but because the human race was born weak, they couldn't directly convert the food into innate qi. That was why they had an extra step compared to the others. He opened his mouth and swallowed the primordial 5-pentacle fruit. The fruit melted in his mouth and produced 5 flavors. It deduced the 5 elements xuanqi and countless fortunes. Feng Zichen felt a warm current rising in his body, continuously strengthening his origin, strengthening his physical body, and urging his body to transform into the born Taoism aptitude. What a treasure! This fruit can actually help people evolve their born Taoism aptitude. How extraordinary! Feng Zichen exclaimed as he came back to his senses. Of course. Fellow Taoist, don't look down on the connate 5-pentacle just because it has a low-grade connate spiritual root. In terms of value, it's comparable to a supreme-grade innate spiritual root. Any fruit of this plant, if planted on the ground, can grow into a new innate 5-pentacle grass. Moreover, as long as there is enough connate qi, its grade will not change. It will still be a low-grade connate spiritual root. It's truly endless. Let me ask you, which other connate spiritual root has such a function? Speaking of the advantages of his treasure, Xing Tian couldn't help but be a little excited. His tone was a little more intense, and he sounded like he was showing off. Indeed, it's a rare treasure. Feng Zichen agreed with this. For other connate spiritual roots, every time they split out a child root, it would consume a lot of their origin energy. If they split out too many, it would inevitably damage their origin and cause their grade to drop. Needless to say, the child roots they split out were of a lower grade than the main body. It was unlike the connate 5-pentacle grass, which could split into tens of thousands, but its grade did not drop. Its characteristics were not like a connate item at all, which would weaken with each generation. Instead, it was quite similar to the Hotian 5-pentacle grass of the future. Most of the connate spiritual fruits born from supreme-grade innate spiritual roots have strong medicinal effects that manifest on the spot. It's not something that ordinary people can eat. The connate 5-pentacle grass is different. Although its effects are not strong, it's superior in quantity and longevity. Long-term consumption can slowly change the body of the person who consumes it. After thousands of years of accumulation, it will gradually reach the effect of a top-grade spiritual fruit, or even stronger. Xing Tian's interest was piqued. He tugged at Feng Zichen's arm and spoke incessantly. That's right. The effect of the connate 5-pentacle grass was not a temporary effect, but a lifetime effect. If someone started consuming the connate 5-pentacle grass from birth, With the accumulation of Tao intent, after reaching the peak of Tai Jinxian, the probability of becoming a Daluo Jinxian would be much higher than that of an ordinary person. Thinking of this, Feng Zichen was a little tempted. Fellow cultivator, we humans are born weak. This fruit has the effect of strengthening the origin, which is of great use to us humans. I wonder if you can give some to me? Feng Zichen asked after bowing to Xing Tian. The connate 5-panicle grass was simply tailor-made for the current human race. With the continuous increase of the human race's population, how could the prey obtained from hunting and fishing be enough for the entire human race to eat? This spiritual root appeared at the right time. It could promote the advancement of the human race's civilization and enter the era of agriculture. Fellow cultivator, you don't have to do this. There's no hurry. These connate 5-panicle grass are not ripe yet. It's useless to give them to you. Waving his hand, Xing Tian explained, this treasure takes 100 years to take root and germinate, 100 years to bear fruit, and another 100 years to mature. From birth to the end, it takes 300 years. There's still 60 years before the 5-panicle grass ripens. Fellow cultivator, you'd better come with me to visit the wizard ancestor and pass on the true spirit treasure raining method. After that, when the 5-panicle grass ripens, I'll give you half of the 5-panicle grass in my territory. Also, you've done a great favor for the wizard tribe by passing on the method. After you meet the wizard ancestor, you can mention this to him. I remember that the wizard ancestor still has some seeds of the first generation 5-panicle grass. If you ask him for it, he won't refuse. Maybe he'll even give you some of the origin of Earth to help you cultivate the connate 5-panicle grass. Thinking of Feng Zichen's help to the wizard tribe, Xing Tian couldn't help but think for him. Thank you, fellow cultivator. Although he didn't know how big Xing Tian's territory was, he thought that with his status in the wizard tribe, it would definitely not be small. Half of the harvest was not a small amount. After a while, Feng Zichen suddenly asked, by the way, according to what you said, the connate 5-panicle grass seems to have been found by the wizard ancestor. That's right. The cultivation of the wizard tribe requires a lot of blood food. Therefore, countless living beings are devoured by the wizard tribe every day. When the wizard ancestor saw this, he couldn't bear it and made a great wish. He traveled all over the untainted land and spent hundreds of thousands of years. Finally, he found the connate 5-panicle grass in the easternmost land to replace blood food and become the cultivation item of our tribe. Xing Tian nodded and said, "The wizard ancestor is merciful." Feng Zichen said with some admiration. Huda's action had saved countless living beings. It was indeed worthy of everyone's admiration. Chapter 170. After a while, the three of them arrived at the Hutu Divine Palace, the residence of the Grand Wizard Hutu. It was a simple and unadorned hall, surrounded by Taoist rhymes. It was not luxurious, but it was majestic. Its color was the same as the earth's, and the law of earth was manifested. This is a connate spiritual treasure. As they approached the Hutu Divine Palace, Feng Zichen could feel the vast connate qi. He was shocked. That's right. The Hutu Divine Palace is an upper-grade connate spiritual treasure. Back then, the demon tribes set up the heavenly court and wanted to dominate the untainted land. We were furious and prayed to our Father God under Mount Bujo to ask for the power of the earth. After the ceremony, 12 divine palaces descended from the sky. They were all upper-grade connate spiritual treasures. They were ordered by us to suppress the untainted land to show our orthodoxy. It's a pity that although these divine palaces are powerful, they are useless to the wizard tribe except for their symbolic significance. As if sensing Feng Zichen's shock, a voice suddenly came from the Hutu Divine Palace. It was so majestic that it seemed to be able to crush the heavens. "It's the Grand Wizard Hutu." Feng Zichin quickly looked at the Hutu divine palace. The door of the divine palace opened slowly, and a peerless goddess in a yellow palace dress walked out to the crowd. How could it be? He saw Hutu. The heaven-splitting merit in Feng Zichin's body suddenly moved, as if it was going to jump out of his body and fly into Hutu's body. Feng Zichin had expected that the heaven-splitting merit would leave. He even had a vague guess about the destined one. It was the Grand Wizard Hutu. Now, the heaven-splitting merit's behavior had confirmed his guess. Although he was a little reluctant to let the heaven-splitting merit leave, it was not his after all. If he forced it to stay, he would definitely be in trouble. So he was very open-minded. However, after the merit of splitting heaven moved, it suddenly calmed down and fell into silence again, which puzzled Feng Zichin. Could it be Hutu isn't the chosen one? Frowning, Feng Zichin suppressed the doubts in his heart, bowed, and said, "Greetings, ancestor of Sorcerer Hutu, from the Zichin clan of the human race." "Greetings, fellow Taoist." After taking a deep look at Feng Zichin, Hutu cupped her fist and replied. With Hutu's cultivation level, how could Feng Zichin's abnormality escape her eyes? It was nothing more than the thick pango aura on Feng Zichin's body that made him feel a sense of familiarity, so he did not investigate his abnormality. "Ancestral witch, I have something important to report." Stepping forward, Xing Tian told Hutu everything that had happened recently. True spirit treasure imperial technique. There's actually such a method in this world. I wonder if fellow Taoist can let me take a look at this technique. Turning her head to look at Feng Zichin, Hutu asked. Of course. Nodding his head, Feng Zichin took out a jade slip and handed it to Hutu. What was recorded in it was the true spirit treasure imperial technique. On his way here, he engraved the true spirit treasure imperial technique into the innate spiritual jade to make the jade slip according to the legendary jade slip inheritance method. After understanding the usage of the jade slip, Hutu's eyes lit up and she praised Feng Zichin. "Fellow Taoist, you're really clever." "It's just a trivial skill. I'm sorry to make you laugh, ancestor of sorcerer," Feng Zichin said modestly with a smile. However, at this moment, Hutu had put all her attention on the secret method in the jade slip and had no time to pay attention to him. "Fellow Taoist, you're really a great talent. With this method, the strength of the sorcerer tribe has increased by more than 10%. Fellow Taoist, you can pass down this method in the sorcerer tribe, which is tantamount to great kindness. The sorcerer tribe owes you a favor. In the future, if fellow Taoist needs help, as long as it's not an evil thing to cause chaos in the untainted land, I will definitely help you." After a while, Hutu withdrew her attention from the jade slip and said to Feng Zichin solemnly, "Ancestor of sorcerer, you're too serious." For Feng Zichin, the true spirit treasure imperial technique was nothing more than a derivative of the divine demon Tao. It was not something important. Being able to exchange this method for a favor from Hutu was a profit for him. However, when ancestor of sorcerer passes down this method, can you not mention my name? After all, the demon tribe is powerful and occupies the heavenly court. I'm afraid that after they know about this, they will be resentful and do harm to the human tribe. Suddenly, Feng Zichin thought of something and broke out in a cold sweat. He hurriedly said to Hutu, the Magi were powerful and were not afraid of the demon tribe. However, Feng Zichin did not have that ability. If the demons knew that he was the one who imparted the Dharma formulation to the Magi to activate the connate numinous treasure, it would be terrible. There would probably be no place for him to hide in the world. He would definitely be found by the furious demons and turned into ashes. Even the human race would be affected. There was no need to wait until the battle to massacre humans. They would be destroyed by the demons. That's true. The demons are ferocious. Since they can't attack us it's inevitable that they will vent their anger on you and harm you. How about this? I'll place this technique in the Panga Hall. If anyone wants to learn this technique, they have to cultivate in the Panga Hall. After that, I'll erase your name so that no one will know who imparted this technique to you. In that case, even if Fushi and Dijun join forces, they won't be able to deduce any information about you. However, although this method is safe, it's a little inconvenient, fellow Taoist. Understanding Feng Zichen's concerns, Huta understood that the demons were indeed difficult to deal with. After thinking for a while, she proposed a solution. It's not inconvenient. It's not inconvenient. Feng Zichen waved his hand and said, "It would be great if it could be so." He didn't want to be remembered by the demons. In the untainted land, who wouldn't be afraid of being remembered by the demons, except for the magi and the sages? By the way, I heard from Xingtian that you seem to want some seeds of the connate 5-panicle fruit. Huta seemed to have thought of something and said, "Yes, this thing is extremely important to the human race. It can save countless lives of the human race. I hope that the ancestral sorcerer can be merciful and give me some seeds to bring back to the human race." Feng Zichen was not exaggerating. When the food crisis of the human race broke out, who knew how many people would die? In that case, I'll make the decision to give you 10% of the harvest of the Hutu tribe this time as seeds. Hearing Feng Zichen's pitiful words, Hutu was moved and said generously, "The ancestral sorcerer is merciful. I thank the Empress on behalf of my people. The human race will always remember the kindness of saving our lives today." Feng Zichen was excited and bowed to Hutu. With 10% of the harvest of the Hutu tribe, the seeds needed by the entire human race would be enough if they grew a few times. "You don't have to do that. I still have some first-generation seeds in the temple. Now that I don't need them, I'll give them to you. Fellow Taoist, please follow me." With that, Huta turned around and walked back to the temple. Chapter 171. Empress, what's the difference between this first-generation seed and ordinary seeds? Following behind Hutu, Feng Zichen asked with some doubts. Since the innate 5-panicle would not degenerate, then the first-generation seed should be no different from other seeds. Why, from their tone, this first-generation seed seemed to be different? The first-generation seed was born from heaven and earth. It has a trace of the mystery of the great Tao and infinite possibilities. If it is nourished by innate spiritual items, it will produce wonderful changes. Come and take a look. Walking to a corner of the temple, Hutu waved her hand, and the void suddenly changed. There was a flash of earthy yellow light. A piece of land the size of an acre slowly appeared in front of Feng Zichen. He could see that the land was full of innate 5-panicle. However, unlike the outside world, the innate 5-panicle here was white. Its fruit was also white, and the will of creation flowed around it. It was a sharp contrast to the innate 5-panicle that was surrounded by the will of the 5 elements that he had seen in the outside world. This is, raising his head, Feng Zichen looked at Hutu, and he had a faint guess in his heart. This item is called the innate fortune seed. After obtaining the innate 5-panicle, in order to speed up its growth, I planted it in the land of creation and used the power of creation to accelerate its growth. I didn't expect that after absorbing a large amount of creation aura, the innate 5-panicle would undergo a mutation. It transformed from the 5 elements to the creation attribute and turned into the innate fortune seed. After that, I conducted some experiments and found that the first-generation seed of the innate 5-panicle has an extremely strong adaptability. In different environments, it can grow into different young plants. It's quite magical. As Hutu spoke, the temple changed again. Pieces of land appeared one after another, and all kinds of innate 5-panicle grew on them. Some emitted imuchi, some emitted pure yang qi, and some emitted innate qi. There were a total of 36 kinds. An innate Tao will lingered in the temple as if it was a Tao realm. Fellow Taoist, after so many years of consumption, there aren't many first-generation seeds left. Now there are 9 left. I'll give them all to you. Taking out a yellow jade box, Huda handed it to Feng Zichen and said, "Thank you, Empress." Innate earth origin. Feng Zichen's heart skipped a beat as he took the jade box and sensed its heavy aura. This jade box was actually formed from the essence of innate earth. Ancestral sorcerer, this is... Before Feng Zichen could finish, Hutu interrupted him. "I'll give you this innate earth essence as well. You can use it to improve the earth meridians in the human territory, improve the cultivation environment, and increase the concentration of innate qi. This will make it easier for the innate 5 grains to grow. The innate 5-grain grass has extremely strict requirements for the environment. If there is not enough innate qi, it will definitely not take root and sprout. You must remember this. Thank you for your advice, Your Highness. Zichen will remember it." Opening the jade box, there were 9 5-colored seeds lying quietly inside. They were covered with Tao patterns of the 5 elements, and they displayed the profundities of the great Tao. It was indeed different from the connate 5-spike fruit that Feng Zichen had eaten in the outside world. "Your Highness, can I take some of these connate 5-spike fruits as seeds?" Looking at the colorful connate 5-spike fruits in front of him, Feng Zichen was a little tempted. If he brought them back to the human race, he didn't know how many talents he could cultivate for the human race and how much strength he could increase. More importantly, they could strengthen the foundation of the human race and prolong the fate of the human race. Of course, Huta nodded and said indifferently, this item had been widely promoted in the sorcerer tribe, and there were many of them. Therefore, even if she gave all the connate 5-spike fruits here to Feng Zichen, she wouldn't feel bad. Knowing what to do, Feng Zichen walked forward and picked 100 of each kind as seeds. Then he stopped. "Your Highness, I have urgent matters to attend to and need to return to the human race. If you don't have anything else, I'll take my leave first." After doing all this, Feng Zichen said goodbye to Hutu. The method of controlling spirit treasures had been passed down, and the benefits were in his hands. There was no need for Feng Zichen to stay. It was time to return to the human race. After all, he still had a lot of things to deal with. The pagoda needed to be placed in the Niwa temple. Otherwise, he would be very uneasy if he kept it in his hands. The connate 5-spike fruits also needed to be distributed to the human race so that they could plant them and benefit the entire human race as soon as possible. After that, he had to visit the white tiger and the black tortoise sages to prepare for entering the Daluo Jinxian. Fellow cultivator, don't worry. I still have some doubts about the method of controlling spirit treasures. I want to ask you for advice. Seeing that Feng Zichen was about to leave, Hutu hurriedly stopped him. Advice? Ancestral sorcerer, you flatter me. If you have any doubts, just tell me. Zichen will tell you everything I know. Hutu's cultivation was very high. She was one of the few masters in the untainted land. If people knew that Hutu wanted to ask for advice from him, they would laugh their heads off. Furthermore, at Hutu's level, she would be able to instantly understand the basic principles behind any cultivation art or divine ability, even if she couldn't learn most of it with a single glance. The method of controlling spirit treasures was just a skill. No matter how difficult it was, it could not be difficult for Hutu. She might have other purposes for asking him for advice. Fellow cultivator, I saw that the method of controlling spirit treasures has a unique style and a system of its own. It vaguely gives people a feeling that it is incomplete. Fellow Taoist, you must have a complete, true spirit cultivation method, right? Ever since she obtained the method of controlling spirit treasures, Hutu had an inexplicable feeling. It seemed that there was a cultivation path that was different from the mainstream of the untainted land hidden behind this method. This path might be able to affect the entire sorcerer tribe. As time passed, this thought became stronger and stronger. Because of this, when Feng Zichen was about to leave, Huda finally could not help but ask. Feng Zichen nodded and replied, "Your Highness guessed correctly. I do have a complete set of true spirit cultivation methods in my hands." The method of cultivating spirit treasures that Huda mentioned was the method of cultivating the Fiend God Path. The Fiend God Path specialized in cultivating spirit treasures and not primordial spirits. Therefore, activating spirit treasures with spirit treasures with spirit treasures was like activating spirit treasures with primordial spirits. It was instinctive and there was no need to cultivate. The method of controlling spirit treasures was deduced by Feng Zichen. Therefore, it had a trace of the Fiend God Path, which was why Huda noticed it. "Fellow cultivator, can I have a look at this method?" This method was very likely to be of great use to the sorcerer tribe. Huda could not hide her curiosity and asked him, "Yes, I can. However, this method was created according to the physique of the human tribe. It may not be suitable for the sorcerer tribe." Feng Zichen had no reason to refuse, not to mention that Huda had given him so many benefits. Just passing down the Fiend God Path was beneficial to him. As the founder of the Fiend God Path, the more prosperous it was, the more benefits he would receive. Chapter 172. It doesn't matter. Give me the method first, and I'll see if the Wu tribe can cultivate it. Huda was very confident about the Wu tribe's ability to cultivate the divine demon path. She had heard of the human tribe before. It was an acquired race created by Nuwa imitating the born Taoism aptitude. The Wu tribe had the blood of Pangu and was born with the Taoism aptitude. It didn't make sense that the human tribe with the acquired Taoism aptitude could cultivate it, but the Wu tribe with the born Taoism aptitude couldn't. "Goddess, please take a look." As he spoke, an ancient Taoist seal appeared between Feng Zichen's eyebrows. It emitted a bright purple light and formed a divine picture of the true spirit in the void, deducing the divine demon path. "The Path Destroyer. Open another path outside the immortal path. You're so talented. I'm not as good as you." After reading the divine demon path for a long time, Huda came back to her senses and sighed. If she had such wisdom, the Wu tribe wouldn't have been in such a situation and had to share the untainted land with the demon tribe. "Goddess, you flatter me." Feng Zichen waved his hand. He didn't dare to accept such praise. This path uses the blood as the foundation and strengthens the born blood step by step. It gives birth to the born indestructible true spirit and transforms into the born divine demon body. It's very suitable for the Wu tribe. However, the highest achievement of this path, Zhouxing, is deeply entangled. It's a bit troublesome. At this point, Huda frowned and said in a slightly distressed manner, "The highest achievement of the divine demon path was not to transform into a born divine demon. It was to verify the untainted land with one's own body and reverse everything to cultivate the supreme body of Pangu. Then, one could step into the realm of primordial Daluo Jinxian, who was comparable to a saint. Zhouxing was formed by the spirit of Panga's acupoints. Their trajectory was a picture of Panga's meridians. Feng Zichen opened the divine acupoints one by one according to the position of Zhouxing. His purpose was to make his meridians correspond to Panga's meridians, and use this to reverse engineer Panga's body, understand the mysteries of heaven and earth, and transform step by step towards him. However, the sorcerer tribe and the demon tribe were mortal enemies. They could not use Zhouxing to cultivate. This was a path that was impossible for the sorcerer tribe. Since they could not cultivate the Panga's body, the shamans could only settle for the next best thing, which was to awaken the ancestral shaman bloodline and cultivate the ancestral shaman's body. However, in this way, their highest achievement could only stop at the level of ancestral sorcerer. If they wanted to go one step further and become Daluo Jinxian, it would be extremely difficult. The body of ancestral sorcerer could be said to be the body that was closest to Penga's body in Untainted Land. If the ancestral sorcerer were to obtain the method to transform Penga's body, his transformation speed would undoubtedly be many times faster than an ordinary person's. But now the opportunity was right in front of her, but she could only miss it because of the demon tribe. Naturally, Hutu was very angry, and her impression of the demon tribe became more disgusted. Goddess, the sorcerer tribe is the descendant of the great Taoist priests. Didn't they get the inheritance of the great Taoist priest's Taoist body? Hearing Hutu's words, Feng Zichen was a little surprised. Even if they did not have the inheritance of Penga's body, it was not difficult for them to comprehend the 12 divine beings killing formation formed by the 12 ancestral sorcerers to condense Penga's body. But how could the sorcerer tribe not have it? Fellow Taoist, you don't know that the inheritance we got from Father only has his body refining method, but not the charm of the Taoist body. So, we don't have the inheritance of Father's Taoist body. Speaking of this, Hutu was a little helpless. After Pengu incarnated into heaven and earth, his inheritance was divided into 3 parts. The primordial spirit inheritance was given to the 3 pure ones, and the body inheritance was given to the 12 ancestral sorcerers. The charm of his Taoist body was scattered into the new, untainted land for all living beings to comprehend. Goddess, the end of the divine demon path is to achieve Penga's body. Cultivating with the help of Zhouxing is only one of the paths, and it is not irreplaceable. Thinking of something, Feng Zichen suddenly said, "Oh, fellow Taoist, what can you do?" Hutu's eyes lit up, and she looked at him with shining eyes. "Goddess, you are the ruler of the earth. You can start from Mount Buzhou, follow the flow of the untainted land, find the node of the land, and draw a map of the untainted land. Then isn't it another map of the great Taoist priests' meridians? Zhouxing was not the only one created by Penga's aperture acupoints. The numerous spiritual caves in the untainted land and the earth veins were also created by him. Feng Zichen had planned to explore the spiritual caves in the untainted land, record the earth veins, and compare them with Zhouxing, so as to further perfect the divine demon path. But now it was different. As the ancestral sorcerer of earth, Hutu could be called the ruler of the earth. The map of the untainted land drawn by her would definitely be more accurate than that drawn by Feng Zichen. At that time, if he asked Hutu for a map, Hutu would certainly not refuse. In this way, it would save him a lot of time. This is a wonderful method. After being reminded by Feng Zichen, Hutu's mind was suddenly filled with countless inspirations. In the blink of an eye, she deduced the feasibility of this method. Fellow Taoist, I am far less intelligent than you. After coming to herself, Hutu sighed with emotion. Then she bowed to Feng Zichen and said, "Fellow Taoist, I am very grateful for your teaching. Please accept my bow." No, Goddess, you are too kind." Seeing Hutu bow to him, Feng Zichen's face changed immediately. He was so scared that he jumped away hurriedly, not daring to accept this bow. In this world, there was no sage-to-be bowing to Tai Jinxian. Sage-to-be was infinitely close to the Tao. Hutu's bow was equivalent to bowing to him with the Tao of Earth. Not to mention that Feng Zichen was not a Daluo Jinxian yet. Even if he was a Daluo Jinxian, he would not dare to accept this bow. If Feng Zichen accepted Hutu's bow, he would lose half of his life, half of his luck, and all his blessings. And this was under the condition that he was indebted to Hutu. Otherwise, this bow would have killed him directly. Fellow Taoist, please forgive me. I was too reckless. At this time, Hutu came to herself. She stood up hurriedly and apologized. It's okay. After calming himself down, Feng Zichen was still a little scared. It was too funny that he was not killed by the enemy, but was killed by the gratitude of others. Fellow Taoist, please accept this token. With an apologetic smile, Huda took out a token and handed it to Feng Zichen. The token was purple like a purple jade. It was glittering. On the front, the word Hutu was engraved, and on the back, the word Wu was engraved. Both of them were innate Taoist inscriptions. They faintly revealed the true meaning of the Great Way. They were extremely noble. This is. Looking at the token in his hand, Feng Zichen asked doubtfully, "This is the Huda token, also known as the Ancestral Sorcerer token. It is the symbol of my status. All members of the Huda tribe are subject to this token, including Daluo Jinxian. Even in the entire Sorcerer tribe with this token, I can mobilize all clansmen except the Grand Sorcerer." Looking at the token, Hutu said solemnly, Chapter 173. In the Panga Hall, there was a Pangu token which recorded the Panga body refining technique of Pangu. The 9 revolutions mysterious method was derived from this method. When the wizard tribe was established, the Pangu token suddenly turned into 12 tokens and evolved 12 body refining techniques, which fell into the hands of the 12 ancestors of wizards. That was the origin of the ancestral wizard token. The 12 body refining techniques were the inheritance of the 12 tribes of the wizard tribe. The ancestral wizard token recorded this method, which could be said to be the inheritance treasure of the wizard tribe. Since Hutu could give it away, she obviously did not treat Feng Zichen as an outsider. "Goddess, this thing is too precious. I can't accept it." Even though he did not know the origin of the token, Feng Zichen knew how precious it was after hearing the function of the token. He did not dare to accept it and hurriedly wanted to return it to Hutu. However, Hutu's cultivation was very high. If she did not want to take back what she had given away, Feng Zichen could not return it. She waved her hand gently, and the Huta token seemed to grow in Feng Zichen's hand. No matter how hard he tried, he could not get rid of the Huda token. "My friend, you have passed down the way of the celestial demon. How can the Hutu token repay your kindness? When I finish drawing the map of the untainted land, I will gather the rest of my brothers and sisters to worship Father God in the Panga Hall. I will report to you about your matter and pass down the way of the celestial demon. At that time you will be the master of all wizards and the master of the wizard tribe. All the members of the wizard tribe will have to call you teacher when they see you to show their respect." Thinking of the importance of the way of the celestial demon to the wizard tribe, Hutu promised Feng Zichen one after another. The way of the celestial demon was based on the congenital bloodline. Every time one advanced to the next level, his bloodline would be further atavistic and constantly strengthened. The strongest thing about the wizard tribe was the Pangu bloodline flowing in their bodies. Coupled with the fiend god Dao's ability to purify one's bloodline, this Dao was more suitable for the Magi than for the human race. It was practically tailor-made for the Magi. As long as the sorcerer race changed to the god-fiend Dao, in less than 100,000 years, the sorcerer race's strength would increase exponentially. It would only be a matter of time before they could wipe out the demon race. Feng Zichen's gaze was still fixed on the human race. He intended to connect the Tao of gods and devils with the human race. When the human race became the main character of the world, the Tao of gods and devils would naturally flourish. However, the Lady of Earth was different. Her cultivation level was higher and her vision was further. She had already covered the entire primordial world. He saw that, compared to the human race, the path of the god-fiend was more suitable for the innate races. They were born as connate beings and possessed the bloodline of connate fiend gods. In terms of transforming into connate fiend gods, they had many advantages over the humans who were born as connate beings. Huta believed that in the face of the Tao of celestial and demon, the Khanate beings would be more inclined to the Tao of celestial and demon. This was because for the Khanate beings, transforming into Khanate fiend gods and becoming Daluo Jinxian was their lifelong pursuit, and the Tao of gods and demons could help them achieve this goal faster than the Tao of celestial and demon. As for being above Daluo Jinxian, that would be something to consider after becoming Daluo Jinxian. Anyway, by then he would be immortal and indestructible. It was not impossible to change to the Tao of celestial and demon. The Lady of Earth was not without selfishness for thinking so much about the Tao of gods and demons. In the future, when she finished drawing the map of the primordial world, she could use it to modify the cultivation method of the Tao of gods and demons. Besides Feng Zichen, she could open another branch and make the Tao of gods and demons more perfect. At that time, she would be the master of a branch. Her position in the Tao of gods and demons was second only to Feng Zichen, the founder. She could share the fate with him. How could she not care about her own interests? Your Highness, you can make the decision. Feng Zichen thought for a moment and understood why Huda had promised so many benefits. However, he did not refuse. The fate of the Wu tribe was so great that it would be beneficial for him to improve his cultivation. Even if the Wu tribe declined in the future and their fate fell, he would get enough benefits. He would not lose much. Moreover, with the help of the Lady of Earth to promote the Tao of gods and demons, it would save him a lot of effort. After all, if he were to rely on himself, how would he be able to fight against the Taoism of the celestial sect? The rise and fall of a Tao was not the work of one person, but the result of the efforts of countless generations. As the founder of the Tao of gods and demons, everything about the Tao of gods and demons could not be avoided by him. He could enjoy the fruits of others' work and share part of the fruits of the achievements of his descendants. Therefore, Feng Zichen would not refuse the existence of people like the Lady of Earth, who kept expanding the Tao of gods and demons. He could not wait to have more people like her. Okay. Seeing that Feng Zichen did not refuse, the Lady of Earth nodded and smiled satisfactorily. However, although the Tao of gods and demons is good, its drawbacks are too obvious. I wonder if you can find a way to solve it with your wisdom? The Lady of Earth frowned and continued. Success and failure were due to the true spirit. Relying on the true spirit, the cultivators of the Tao of gods and demons could improve much faster than other cultivators. However, if the primordial spirit was damaged, it was not difficult to recover. Once the true spirit was damaged, it was almost impossible to recover if one's cultivation was not at the golden celestial stage. If this was not solved, the cultivators of the Tao of gods and demons would not be able to exert their full strength when fighting with others in the future. In this world, there is no such thing as a perfect cultivation method. Regarding this, I have no solution. The only thing I can do is to suggest that they refine a magic treasure to protect the true spirit. As for how useful it is, it depends on the level of the magic treasure. Feng Zi shook his head and smiled bitterly. The drawbacks of the Tao of gods and demons were so obvious. If he had a way to solve this problem, he would have done it long ago. Why would he wait for the Lady of Earth to find out? What you said is reasonable. I am too greedy. Hearing Feng Zichen's words, the Lady of Earth seemed to have understood something. The more perfect it was, the easier it was to be envied by the heavens. Perhaps it was because of this drawback that the Tao of gods and demons could be passed down. Otherwise, how could the heavens allow such a method to reverse the innate gods and demons to exist? My lady, is there anything else? Thinking of the Buddha pagoda, Feng Zichen asked to leave again. Can you leave a keepsake? When I pass down the Tao of gods and demons, I need you to come and witness it in the name of a wizard. Understanding the meaning of his words, the Lady of Earth thought for a while and said, That's true. Nodding, Feng Zichen took out a stream of chaotic qi and condensed it into a piece of black jade. Handing the black jade to the Lady of Earth, Feng Zichen said, "My lady, if you need me for anything, you can inject your magic power into this jade. I will sense it. Well, since you have something to do, I will not keep you. This time, I have already prepared 30% of the Lady of Earth tribe's harvest. After you go out, you can go to him directly to get it." After accepting the black jade, the Lady of Earth said, "The 10% that was agreed upon earlier had been increased to 30%. Thank you very much, my lady. Zichen will take his leave first." After bowing, Feng Zichen turned and left the Lady of Earth Temple. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.